Hey guys, Pete here. We're going to try something new today. Welcome to the Saturday Better Call Saul stream. We're going to look forward this time, and I've invited some friends to come talk about episode 10, which does look like it's going to be called Nippy. It looks like that's stuck, that's the actual title. It seemed like it might have been a placeholder at one time. And where we think this show might take us in the last 4 episodes, because I think it's exciting that it's really hard to say. I mean, we were just talking about this off screen, and for as much time as I have invested in this, these two series and thinking about them and talking about them, we're really at a place where it is, anything could happen. And we got the prequel aspects; they're mostly wrapped up. There's not a lot. There's really not much more story that needs to be told in the Better Call Saul timeline. And we got the overlap with the original series. We're going to spend some time there. We know that for sure. And then the sequel part, which is going to give us the ending. I mean, as far as we know right now, this will be the last thing we see that takes place inside the Breaking Bad universe. So there's a lot to talk about, I think. And I'm going to let all of my guests sort of give us, none of them were on the Tuesday stream when we talked about episode 9. So I'm going to give everyone a chance to, tell us who they are, talk about their channels and, what they're doing, and a brief, a brief synopsis of what they thought of episode 9. And then we'll just, move into what happens next. So, Courtney, you're the next window down below me. Why don't you go first and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, I'm Courtney from Courtney's Reviews. And what I thought about this episode, it was heartbreaking. And a viewer actually commented, and I thought it was like the perfect description of this episode. And Adam said that it's possibly the only episode that he enjoyed every minute of, but also found like excruciating and hated every second of it. And I thought, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Kind of sums up how I felt too. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
It really was one of the best in my opinion, but man, was it brutal.
Brutal is a word that I would use. And, I've been looking at comments this morning when I woke up from my last video, and I see some people had problems, but I think universally, even if you didn't think it was an enjoyable episode or you didn't get what you wanted to happen or whatever, I think it's pretty universally considered to be one of the strongest episodes. And I would say, I mean, I'm coming from a place of having just been, recency. Like I just saw it affected me quite a bit. But right now, to me, it seems like the best episode of the series. Where do you think about, like, how did it land for you? And as far as, like, was it one of your favorites, or what did you think?
Yeah, well, it's definitely up there. I think the last 3 episodes, I see it as an arc, from Howard to Lalo to this one, and as a resolution to all of these storylines. So it's hard for me at this point to rate them because, but I would definitely put it up there. I would put it up there in top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I really loved it. Let's move on to Eric. Eric, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Sure. I'm Eric from Inside the Gilliverse and Music Gear Network. And for those of you that don't know, we talk about Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad and all that stuff on my channel. And thank you for the love for my channel as well too. I appreciate it. And I watched the show again just about 15, 20 minutes before jumping on live here tonight, just to freshen myself up. And I think I've watched it maybe 5 times since it aired. And it is a really powerful episode, very, very powerful. And I'm anxious to talk about some of the things that were said in it. And I'll share something. I've had a long theory since like the very first season, and it proved to be true in this episode. So I'll be happy to share my thoughts on that. But it's very powerful, and I can just say, wow! Like it's. I think the replay value on that episode is maybe one of the best of the series.
Yeah, I would agree there. And Chase, why don't you round out the guest introductions?
Yeah, for sure. So, hey guys, Kiwi here, also known as Chase. As far as episode 609 goes, now while initially watching it, I was getting some 604 to 606 vibes in regards to the pacing of the first half of the episode on the cartel side, but I got to agree with what Eric said in regards to the rewatchability for this episode, because every time I've gone back and rewatched it, I've enjoyed it more and more. And I do think that the second half of the episode is stronger than the first half, or at least I initially did. But going back, I really gained appreciation for the whole, the Gus drinking wine scene and everything to do with that. And then I loved how we got kind of a conclusion with Nacho's father. And then HHM's final stand was absolutely wild. It was kind of depressing knowing that, it's the end of an era, metaphorically and literally. But then going into the breakup scene, like, my jaw just dropped. And I'm really happy that we got the confrontation with Kim admitting that she knew that Lala was still alive. And then I guess, yeah, the Saul time skip was really good. It really ended the episode on a high note. I was not expecting that. I was expecting some Breaking Bad stuff in maybe episode 10 or 11, but I was not expecting that time jump in episode 9. So that was really awesome. As far as I was kind of thinking when you asked, like, where would we rate this episode? I'm not sure if I'd rate it top 5, just because there's so many good ones. Definitely top 10 though. It really felt like an epilogue to the whole Better Call Saul timeline. And yeah, just I've definitely grown a lot more appreciation for this episode throughout the week. I mean, I still liked it when I watched it, but yeah, just watching it over and over and breaking down all the different scenes. I really do enjoy it, and I'm really interested in the direction we're headed, because yeah, we almost have next to no idea what's going to happen next. So there's a lot of theories we can talk about here.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that makes it so high on so high on my list is that this is something that we had poured over, especially us, but fans in general, how this might play out. And whenever we were going into it, there was just I didn't like any of the options for how this relationship would end and what would happen as far as Kim leaving his life. It all felt really inevitable, but none of the popular theories, especially at this part of the season, after we had seen things develop for 8 episodes, none of it really felt like it fit. And I just thought it was so impressive and the way that they actually wrapped that up. And like I said, I wasn't happy about it. It kind of it's kind of a bummer, and it definitely, we'll get into the fact of just how much it changes the Breaking Bad experience, knowing some of these things. But I mean, I just thought it was super impressive way to wrap these things up. And that's part of what makes it exciting, going forward, is like, okay, well, they picked this as their spot to basically end the first series, and now they're going to move into the sequel, I guess. And it definitely has me excited to see what they have dreamed up for that. I wanted to do, I see I have some super chats, and I'm going to get to those, but I did want to do one quick question for everyone. I wanted to talk about this idea of the first "I love you" and the last, that was said on screen. I saw an article or an interview with Ray Seahorn that Alan Sepinwall did, and she said that she thought that Jimmy and Kim say "I love you" often off screen. And that sounded good to me whenever I read it. I thought that made sense. And then writer producer Thomas Schnoz, who is Eric's co-host over there on Inside the Gilliverse, he tweeted out that his opinion was that this was the first time they said it, but he also added that he thinks that they show their affection in different ways. They just hadn't said it out loud. So I just wondered what you guys thought. Like, which do you like better? Is this the first time that Jimmy McGill ever said "I love you" to Kim Wexler, or do you think that they said it all the time and this is just him, bringing it up and to just really underline the point that, hey, look at me here. I'm leaving it. This is me, raw, without anything else. This is the only thing that there's left to say. You can go first, Courtney.
I kind of like Tom's version a little bit more than I think raised, but I can certainly see them behind the scenes saying it. But I think that they demonstrate their affection for each other in other ways, like the different languages of love. Like you can do things for your partner, demonstrate your affection in other ways. And I think it's unspoken, but they both know how they feel about each other. I don't think it's something that they necessarily need to say out loud to prove.
Yeah. So you like Tom's. What about you, Eric?
I don't think, my personal opinion is, and this is what I was talking about, this theory. My personal opinion is I don't think they ever say it. I don't, they're such a weird couple, and we don't really get to see any more of their personal life other than the way the writers want us to see it. So we don't know what goes on in the bedroom or in the different scenes and stuff like that. We don't know what goes on there. So we don't know if they're saying, I love you. And I've always thought since season 1, I was hoping I'd hear a day where one of them would say, I love you. And then I feared for it at the same time, because I said always that the day we hear it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
The day we hear them say, I love you, it's going to be a disaster. And it was a complete disaster. So I don't think they say it. I think they, as you guys said too, they just, it's implied. And I do think they're kind of codependent on one another as well too. Like the characters, they each need each other, but they're, like Kim said, they're not good together. I do think they, as much as we all love them together as a couple, excuse me, I think they are better apart. And I hate to say that, but I think it's true.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the really interesting things they did when they crafted these characters, is they gave them both a lot of agency, and they're able to, do a lot of amazing things as individuals, but they're kind of codependent. They kind of need each other, and that makes things interesting. Chase, what about you? Do they say I love you or not?
No, I'm gonna have to agree with Tom and I guess Eric and Courtney here. I do like the idea of this being the first time that they've said it, and almost hearing them say it sounds natural, but at the same time, it just kind of sounds strange. Like, for example, throughout all the times we've heard from season 6 and season 5, Jimmy and Kim saying, "Oh, this is my wife," or "This is my husband." It's like, yeah, we know they're married, but every time they say that, it's just like, I don't know, it just kind of feels weird to me. And I'm not saying that they aren't in love or anything. Like, yeah, they definitely show their love in the way that they care for each other and they have each other's back and everything. And but they're not all lovey-dovey about it, right? And I think it also relates back to the whole "Something Stupid" song in regards to the line from the chorus. I think it goes like, "And I go and spoil it all by saying something stupid like I love you." That's my favorite song from the Better Call Saul soundtrack. I have it at the top of my Better Call Saul playlist. So I think it relates a lot to the Jimmy and Kim relationship, especially in their final moments. And I do think that was Jimmy trying to use it as a way to keep them together. But I love how Kim says it back and then deflects it by saying, "So what?" Because she knows that they are trouble together. And I really like how, I mean, I hate how they had to end things, but it was the best decision for Kim to do so. And I'm at least glad that she lives through it.
Yeah, and I think those are all fine points. The one part that I don't like about it, about thinking that it's the first time that they said it to each other, is that he's basically pleading there. You know what I mean? And it's not the I don't know. I mean, when you watch the scene, like I said, I think he kind of steps back and he realizes, like, what's actually happening in real time, like you do whenever you're faced with a conversation like this. And I think, he's letting himself be vulnerable there. And when you see the way that he delivers it, it is sort of like he's saying, look, I hear what you're saying, but come on, I love you. And I don't know. I just think that it's not the best, but it could go either way. And let's look at a couple of these super chats here. What do we got? Roger Rubio, thank you for the 5. Thank you all for the great breakdowns to the best show I've ever seen. How would you define a happy ending for the show? Yeah, this is a little bit tricky. Happy is a pretty difficult word to, to actually figure out what that would be. I did a video about this a few, I guess about a month ago. Like, what would that even look like? And oh, we lost somebody here. But one of the things that I think about whenever what would a happy ending look like? I mean, the way that they've set this up, this transformation into Saul Goodman, and what Jimmy is actually doing, the way that he's using this as a coping mechanism, and it looks it's in a lot of ways it's darker than what you could have expected. So part of what a happy ending would be for me, like, just to see him reckon with that, and redeem himself somehow. I don't know what that looks like yet, but that's what I would say. What do you guys think? Eric, how would you define a happy ending for the show?
Impossible. It's not going to happen. I don't think you can have a happy ending in the show. I really don't. It's I can't see anything happy. I mean, it's depressing. We've lost so many people. There's a lot of death, and it's in a lot of cases it's greed that caused it. Walter White and everyone around him, greed. There's no happy ending I can see in this show. There isn't. I mean, okay. We say this, like, everyone thought Kim was going to die, and there's still some comments in the chat saying Kim's going to get killed or commit suicide or things like that. The happy ending is Kim will survive in her own. I think she's going to survive in her own world. So that to me is happy, but it's that's the happiest of the most depressing, if that makes any sense. I don't see any happy ending.
Yeah. Chase?
Yeah, I think we're going to get a bittersweet ending. I mean, I was trying to think this whole time, what would a happy ending look like? But I'm just trying to make good of a bad situation, with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. These aren't shows where people get a happy ending. At the very most, you get a glass half full situation where you get to live at the end of it. I mean, I would like to think that maybe Gene tackles his paranoia and doesn't want to live in fear and hiding anymore. What would that look like? Is he going to go to jail? Is he going to turn himself in? Is he going to get caught? I'm not too sure there, but just coming out of this situation alive is more than anything, because when you look at Breaking Bad, most of the characters end up dying, and now in Better Call Saul with the final season, we're kind of heading down that same road as well. So I feel like Kim has gotten the best ending so far out of all of our main characters, all things considered. I think we're gonna go bittersweet here. I think that's about it. I'm not sure. I was trying to think, what would a happy ending look like, but I don't really think anyone's gonna live happily ever after here.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the question, he's asking how we would define that, So on that scale, I think you guys are both saying, like, just living is actually kind of happy compared to what most people get in this universe.
Yeah.
All right, Courtney.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's already been said. I think a happy ending in this context would be perhaps a chance for redemption for Jimmy. So maybe, because to me the tragedy is how he becomes Saul, and I think this most recent episode really puts an exclamation point on that fact. Right, that is the tragedy. That is what happens to him. So perhaps returning to who he really is will be the happy ending, and sort of facing the music, I think. Kind of what I'm expecting.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. And the other thing that I've been thinking about a lot since the last stream, because we talked about just the tragedy of the way that he structured his life to not feel what happened in this series, basically, to kind of keep it out of his mind. Like, what I thought about after the fact, and we kind of touched on it, like how not only does it recontextualize Breaking Bad, but it also recontextualizes what we've seen with Gene. When you first saw Gene, you see, oh, he's watching those funny commercials from that funny time of Saul Goodman. You know what I mean? And now you look at that and you say, what is he actually doing there? That feels like torture, right? Like, if he was really that miserable during that time period. And what dawned on me between over the last couple of days is that Gene is also the antithesis of Saul, in that he has none of that stuff. Like, he has nothing to distract him from his thoughts. You know what I mean? So I've been kind of thinking like what is actually going through Gene's head in Omaha, now that all the distractions gone, all of that, like that'll be really interesting to see when we get to that time period, like how he's really dealing with the weight of all of that. And I think that that it's just a great trick they did. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, Gene's obviously been going crazy during his time in hiding with no one to really speak to but his own thoughts bouncing around in his head. To add on to, what you're saying about the first Gene scene, we saw him very unhappy, trying to relive his glory days through those Saul Goodman commercials. And, I'm sure you all know this, but that's the only time that we've seen color in Gene's life is the reflection of the commercial on his glasses. And ever since, he's had moments of Saul creeping out through him, trying to break free, such as in season 3 when he yells at that thief to get a lawyer. And I think Gene's been more focused on his paranoia than anything. I've always wondered, is Gene's paranoia going to be his downfall? It's been this big thing I've been wondering about the whole show. Because on one hand, there's that saying from season 6, Jimmy was telling Kim, the wicked flee when no man pursueth. But at the same time, Gene has a right to be paranoid due to the situation he's currently in. And Jeff, having made him kind of validates his paranoia. So I think his paranoia has consumed him during his time as Gene. And I wonder now going into season 6 if he's going to tackle his fear in part by dealing with Jeff, as he told Ed.
Yeah. Eric or Courtney, do you want to add anything here?
Well, I think Gene is being pursued. So he is a wanted man, right? So I was actually thinking, the line that Kiwi just quoted, that the wicked flee when no man pursueth, I think really fits for Kim actually in the most recent episode. They're getting away with it, and yet she chooses to flee. So as far as what Gene is thinking or feeling, I think he's, as discussed, has a lot of downtime to reflect, and he's miserable, right? And so I think that moment on the phone with Ed is maybe, the way I read it is that he's tired of running, and he was just in the hospital, right? This is starting to have physical repercussions for him, right? The stress is so intense, and maybe that's it. He's ready to hang up the jacket or put the jacket back on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's another thing to think about is that, the jacket, what does the jacket symbolize there? It's not like what we thought when the season started of just like, I'm going to essentially be Jimmy, because Jimmy is where the scam comes from, right? Like whenever you think about putting Saul back on, you think about him doing a scam, but that's really kind of a weird misconception. Saul is like running from reality, instead of just being this really fun guy. He's trying to distract himself from what's going on inside of his brain. The game 9205. Thank you for the 9.99. Love your reviews and breakdowns. Well, I appreciate that. And we're glad to see you here. Thank you. Joe Figueroa, $5. Thank you. I honestly have a feeling Kim is in some sort of mafia with the special guest being her mom. Yeah, well, we're gonna get around to. I don't know if you're drawing a connection with Carol Burnett here in general, or just the new player in the game that they were talking about. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but the synopsis of this episode was just a new player enters the game, I think. And that seems like it's about Walt on one level, but there could be another side to it as well. What do you think? I guess real quick, we'll go around to everyone. What do you think? Do you think we're going to see Kim's mom again?
Not in the in the past. So in the future, yes. Future mom, current mom.
You think we're going to see her in the future? What about you, Chase?
Current.
Yeah, I would like to, honestly. I'd like to see how she's doing, if Kim can reconnect with her, if they can make amends, or if it's just estranged forever.
Courtney?
Yeah, agreed. Actually, when I first heard about Carol Burnett, that was my first thought. It was that she might play Kim's mom. I know a lot of people have issues with the age difference, but I think we can suspend some disbelief when it comes to ages of the actors a little bit. So I would love
We've been doing it for years.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, for sure. So I think Burnett as Marion Wexler or whatever her last name may be would be really interesting.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of interest in. I'd like to see more about her past, and Courtney, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. I don't really. I mean, I guess I can see why it might make sense, for her to kind of reckon with her own background and where where she came from. I don't know if it's not Carol Burnett and Carol. I mean, I kind of want Carol Burnett to do something dynamic, and I feel like like to actually move the story. And I don't think that Kim's mom will be the vehicle for that, but yeah, we'll see, I guess. And we'll come back around to Carol Burnett too, I think, because I have a couple other questions that I would like to get into. And Joe Figueroa, sorry, $2 again, thank you. He just wanted to say that Kiwi, your vids are great.
Thank you. I'm honored. I appreciate that. Much love.
Morty Smith, thank you for the 199. Pete, please read my theory chat or let me know how to send you. Actually, Chase, I apologize when you were giving your last answer, and I was kind of flat at the end. It was because I was looking for this, and I'm sorry right now, Morty, I haven't been able to locate your theory chat, but
I think he said it like right at the very beginning of the chat before we even started streaming, but I'm not too sure. I was just kind of skimming through it earlier.
Yeah, I'll try when I have a second. I'll try to scroll back up, but I didn't see it on my first pass, and I kind of spaced on what Chase was saying there as a result. So I do apologize to my guest.
Yeah, no worries.
Let's see, Potts. Thank you for the €4.99 or pound. Sorry. There's a theory that Kim will hand in Jimmy to the police. This will get her money and ending in a fitting way. Yeah, I saw a lot of this. I think I saw it more from the angle of Gene will turn himself in so that Kim will get the payday, or he'll turn himself into her, and then she can get that $5 million reward. And I would say that seems a little bit more possible to me. Like we're not there yet, but we could get there. But whenever like if it's an idea of her betraying him because she wants to get paid, I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all to me, because she could have just stayed with him and got the Sandpiper money, for one thing. And the other thing is, I feel like a lot of her leaving is part of, it's not just about her, it's about kind of protecting him and at the same time, like doing something for him that he can't do for himself. And we could get into the if that's the right way to make decisions, or if that's a good idea or a bad idea, or all those things. But I just don't see anything in her behavior that would point to her betraying him at this point. Like she's sacrificing herself to this thing that they have, because she knows it's bad for them, and she doesn't think that Jimmy would be able to do it. At least that's part of my read on what's happening there. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is Kim hand in Jimmy to the police? Is that something that you could see happening?
I like that idea better than her ratting him out. So that's a very it's like Jimmy will set it up so he can turn. I like that a lot. But to go back just a few minutes ago when you're talking about like the various theory, like Jimmy himself, he was always looking for approval. Back with his mom, like he was a favorite son because he was funny. He had his mom's approval. He wanted Chuck's approval. And after that, when he became Saul Goodman, he didn't worry about approval anymore. So he just got to live his life by fast and furious, full of color and all that stuff. And being in Gene's timeline, you know, he's probably thinking like a lot of us have thought in our life, where was the happiest place I ever was in my life? And he's thinking back when I was Saul Goodman. And I have a feeling he's just going to either turn himself in or he's going to go be Saul Goodman one more time and maybe take drastic measures, whether he's going to go after someone, whatever, but he's going to be Saul Goodman one more time at no matter what the expense is. So I think that could alone get him arrested. But if he was to set it up and get Kim the reward, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
Kiwi?
yeah. I don't know. I like the idea of Gene kind of turning himself in and dealing with everything he's been hiding from. I also theorized that maybe he could give Kim his diamonds before he turned himself in, although I don't know if that she'd want to accept that for the same reason why she probably wants nothing to do with the Sandpiper money. I mean, the Sandpiper money, you know, it reminds her of Howard and all of that, and I feel like she probably just wants to live a modest life on her own. I don't really think she's looking for wealth. You know, that's why she didn't really care for the Mesa Verde job. It was making her a lot of money. It didn't fulfill her. So I feel like she's trying to do something that just fulfills her, maybe trying to help people in the same way she was helping pro bono clients. So regardless of if Jimmy and Kim are actually divorced or what the deal is with that, I don't think that she accepted any of the Sandpiper money, which leads me to believe that she might not want to accept the diamonds, even though Gene might try to give them to her. But I do like the idea of him eventually turning himself in and kind of facing, you know, the music, just for the simple fact of redemption or getting over his paranoia, not wanting to live like that anymore. I'm not sure if Kim will help set that up, though, or if she'll want anything to do with it. She might figure or find out that he's in jail and go and visit him in prison. Maybe that could be their reunion. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I stand right now. I don't really think that Kim would want any of that money, really. I don't really think that's what she's looking for.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Kiwi. I can't imagine her being interested in the money. It's blood money, like Jesse says in Breaking Bad. And I just wanted to say that I have two thoughts about Kim and Jimmy in the future. And the first one is something that stood out to me in the most recent episode when Mike and Gus are talking in the tunnel right after, you know, the cartel scene. And Gus says, you know, tell me about the lawyers. And he tells them about how they, you know, stood up to the police, yada, yada, yada. But then he says that they cannot close the file until they have a body. Now, that cannot close the file is something that I've been thinking a lot about. So, like, of course, that means that perhaps the file isn't closed on Howard, of course. So that may come up in the future. But also, it can mean that the file on Jimmy and Kim isn't exactly closed, even though it's over for all practical purposes, as Mike says. So I was thinking about their marriage, right? Do they stay legally married even though they're separated because they cannot be compelled to testify against each other in the future? So that's question number one that I've been sort of mulling over. And question number two is I was thinking about that teaser we got ahead of episode, I think it was 8. It was during the hiatus, when we hear Kim reciting her oath as though she's being admitted to the bar, you know, the little candle with the blood splatter on it. And so I thought, seeing, you know, the episodes that followed, was that perhaps, certainly in this most recent one, context to how she was considering the oath that she took and how she perhaps feels that she cannot in good faith continue to be a lawyer because she feels she's violated her oath in some reason. But something I've been thinking of recently is that perhaps she ends up getting readmitted to the bar. Maybe she gets sworn in the future. So I was thinking, this is a little bit of fan fiction here. I don't know how practical this is, but what if Kim comes back and defends Jimmy? Like, if, let's say, he does turn himself in. That's a thought I've been sort of entertaining. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of comments about that. I'm of two minds, and I said this in the last stream that we did, but you know, for me, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying about him turning himself in. For me, I if he does that, I kind of want that to be, I kind of want it to end there. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see him make that decision, and from that, I don't really care what happens. You know, like, I don't need them to walk us through a trial or any of that kind of stuff. Like, I think it would be, you know, the resolution to the story is that he finally you know, does something that you can get behind and say, okay, well, yeah, this is, you know, me taking responsibility for what happened or whatever. And then, you know, you can decide like what happens to him after that, you know, because it doesn't really matter in my mind. I don't know, like there's a lot, it seems like what you're talking about there, Courtney, a lot of people have this idea that they want to see, if he turns himself in, they want to see him go through the court case. They want to see him in jail to see that he's, you know, that actually Jimmy McGill does pretty good in prison. You know, he's a happy guy. He's he helps other people out. And I just think all of that would be unnecessary to the story. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I'd like to get maybe one scene of him just in prison, you know, mingling with the other prisoners, maybe doing legal work for them or telling them what to say, you know, for a defense or something like that, or good behavior. I don't really think, I agree, I don't really think we need to see a court scene, because if he, whether he gets caught or turns himself in willingly, I think that that would be good enough to leave off there. I did originally like the idea of Kim sort of defending Gene. But I do think that Kim quitting her job as a lawyer, that is a huge twist and a big turn of events. And I wouldn't really want them to just sort of undo that in an episode or two. I understand that would be years in the future, but I kind of like the idea of just that being a finite twist, that Kim doesn't want to be, you know, a lawyer anymore, because I always thought that she was going to either you know, get the Sandpiper money and actually start up her pro bono practice, or maybe she'd go to jail herself so she'd have the Sandpiper money, but she wouldn't be able to spend it. But her willingly giving up that career is just such a huge deal for me that I kind of want that to be cemented, to be honest. I don't want them to sort of undo that and make that twist feel not as impactful in that sense. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I like, you know, I guess the big thing with the idea of that, you know, that you brought up the oath, Courtney, like it could go two ways. I think, you know, it could be her remembering, you know, why she became a lawyer, or she could become a lawyer again. I just I don't want to, I don't know. I just think like that. I can't really imagine that, you know, that having the impact that it's, you know, that if she comes back to specifically for you know, take care of Gene or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think that, I mean, you're kind of touching a little bit on this, Chase, like, do you guys think that that's still a dream she has, is to do the pro bono work, or you know, does that make sense if she does get the reward or whatever, that for her to go back to that?
Yeah, well, I always thought, you know, that was her dream, because, well, there's other ways to help people other than just helping pro bono clients, right? Like, she could go work at a soup kitchen, she could volunteer, she could work in many different fields that could help people. She could go help a charity. I mean, and it's just a thing. I feel like she will find something else in her life where she will be able to help those that are in need and can't normally find the help that they need in other ways other than being a lawyer. And I don't really think that money is a goal for her. And just to touch on that oath, I don't know if we'll see it at this point anymore. I think it might be unlikely, the theory that I have, but I always thought that it was going to be a flashback to, you know, Kim getting sworn in. And I thought that Howard was going to be there, or even Chuck too, because I would have liked to see another Howard or Chuck flashback. So I thought that's what that was going to be. But now I'm just completely unsure. I'd still like to see that come to fruition somehow, but I'm just not too sure anymore.
All right. Well, Craig Otto, thank you for the 10. What a dream team here. Thank you for your analysis. Would love to hear you all discuss how nuanced that breakup scene was. It seemed different from others on TV. I related more in ways, not the murder. I related more in ways, not the murder. Oh, yeah. Okay. No, I get it. I was trying to figure out what that last part meant. Yeah, you know, the murder part is not the good part of that, what happened out of there. But yeah, that I know in my video I talked about this, and we definitely talked about this a lot in the last stream. you guys want to chip in on what you think about this? How the breakup scene was different?
Well, it reminded me very much of the argument that they have right before she proposes to him, and then they get married. So they're about to break up, and then she's like, "Well, we break up or we get married." And it also reminded me a little bit of the discussion that she has with Jimmy right before Lalo shows up, when she's telling him that she quit Schweikart and Coakley, and he's like, "You can't do this," and you can't change Kim's mind. And coming back around to the "I love you" part, like he's trying to rationalize with her, and he's like, "It's Lalo's fault. Your pro bono clients need you." I mean, he's trying to persuade her, and when all of that fails, that's when the "I love you" comes out. So it was really, really gut wrenching. And the last line of that conversation, when Kim says that she was having too much fun, was a callback, of course, to what I think of Howard's curse on them in his final scene, when he says, "At first I thought you guys were doing it for the money. You were doing it for fun." And I feel like in this moment, that's Kim acknowledging that, yeah, like they were deluding themselves that it was so she would have money for the pro bono practice. And she's finally really owning up to the fact that she was doing it because she enjoyed doing it. And the contempt and the disgust that she feels for herself in the delivery of that line is just such a gut punch. And Jimmy knows she's right, And so it's just a heartbreaking, really heartbreaking, hard to watch scene.
Yeah, and I think, when you talk about it being nuanced, it's there's a lot of like them working through it in real time, I think, is what really sells it to me. I know when you listen to the Insider podcast, they were talking about some of the ways they set that up. Michael Morris, who directed it, was talking about it, and then that Ray Seahorn interview also, she was talking about how the camera won't let you get away, and that feeling of just not being able to it's like these two people they know that they're at the end, and they're there, and neither one of them wants to look at the reality, because Kim is actually right in what she's saying, and for Jimmy, he knows that once that ends, the conversation ends, then so does their relationship, So when she walks away, I thought that was such a great touch, that with just the sound of the packing tape, because it's the sound that we all know, and there's no words, and he doesn't get angry, he doesn't flip out, he's just sort of stuck in that place. And yeah, I thought it was great for all of those reasons. Eric or Chase, you want to add anything?
I just wanted to add that I really like the aftermath of the HHM scene when they're having that final kiss down in the parking garage. Just the way that Kim kisses him one last time, doesn't say anything, gets in the car. You knew that something was going to happen. It was really great foreshadowing. And definitely, I think after that moment where she made that disgusting lie to Cheryl is when she realized that she couldn't do that anymore. And she definitely had her mind made up from then. And I think it was a little bit dramatic effect the way that she said in the middle of the court, because I'm not an attorney anymore, or whatever she said. Probably could have been more realistic way she could have said that, but it was just a big, bomb drop right there. Like, I was not expecting that at all. I was like, come on, Kim, why aren't you gonna do this pro bono client? Like, come on, just get it over with. And she's like, oh, I'm not a lawyer anymore. What the heck? And then just waiting for Jimmy to get home, the impending doom of the conversation that she knows that's about to happen. And he bursts in and sees that she's already half done packing. It was just one tragic twist after another. And the actors did an amazing job portraying that breakup scene. I think that's what made it feel so realistic, right? Just the brilliant writing, the amazing actors. They just did a great job all around, and it just felt right. I hate that they had to break up, but I'm glad that Kim got the heck out of Dodge. And, with Kim gone, it's the last thing holding Saul back, or Jimmy back, from being Saul. So that jarring cut through the time jump, I think that fit perfectly as well.
I think that kiss in the parking garage was just Kim testing to see because I think her mind was made up the night before when they basically come home for the first time, they sleep in the house or the apartment for the first time after it's been cleaned up. And, Jimmy's giving her the speech, we'll wake up one day, we'll brush our teeth and we'll know, blah, blah, blah. And Kim's just laying there. She was completely blank, and she knew right there that it was done for. They had to separate. I think she knew there that they were done. And maybe she wanted to kiss him one more time just to see if, she could kiss him and walk away, or if she kissed him and she couldn't be away from him. And she was able to walk away and confirm that she can survive without him and they can survive without each other. So I think her mind was already made up.
I think the moment was Cheryl. I think that was the moment that really cemented it for her. That was the last moment.
Yeah.
And I think what it was, because rewatching it, it reminded me very much, actually, again, of the scene with Lalo the first time he shows up to the apartment. And Lalo wants a story. He wants to know what happened in the desert, of course, and Jimmy's telling the story. And then Lalo's, he's not buying it completely. And then Kim comes in and she seals the deal, right? Like, she says what needs to be said. And I found a very similar parallel in this scene with Cheryl. So Cheryl wants to know what happened. She's asking them questions, sort of giving them, the third degree. What did you tell the police? What happened? And so Jimmy's telling the story, and she's showing doubt. She's like, I don't believe this. And that's when Kim jumps in and she says, I don't think it's my place, or maybe it's not my place. And she looks over her shoulder, and if you see, there's an exit sign. So she's so uncomfortable in that scene, but she knows she has to put this to bed, right? She has to end the doubt. And right before she jumps in, Cheryl says, I'm not oblivious. And then the way Kim comes in and she's like, well, you would have known you were his wife. And of course, Jimmy and Kim know that they were separated. So she knows that's exactly the thing to say. Yeah. She's telling her the subtext is maybe you are oblivious. And it's a devastating scene. It's a death blow, really, but it ends the conversation. And it was exactly what it needed to be said to end Cheryl's doubt. And I think Kim knew then that, that was an awful thing to do, but she did it. She did it anyway. And I just, that was it for her. She knew it was over.
Yeah. It's funny because, I agree that, what you're saying, Eric, is that it's up to debate on when she actually, made the decision. And I tend to agree with Courtney here. And what's funny is that when I first watched that scene with Cheryl, it happened so fast, and it's just so jarring that it didn't really occur to me what was happening. You know what I mean? Like it's something that I had to think about for a second. Like, did she really do that? Like you're saying, it's completely brutal. Like she goes beyond what immediately seems necessary. But I think when you go back and you look, you think, okay, well, she's actually just doing what needs to be done, and she understands that, and she realizes that this is the kind of things that they're going to have to do going forward, and they're good at it. I mean, I think if you look at what they pulled off with Howard, I mean, it's like, it's an amazing scam. Of course, it ended terribly, and even like how Jimmy said, it's not their fault. It's Lala's fault. You know what I mean? So it's like, you could see how they could even sort of, account for things like that and say, okay, well, it was still, this is what we do. It's not our fault that happened. And it's just, it just keeps going. And, so I kind of think, when I watched it there, I thought, okay, this is the straw that broke her back, it's where she can't go on. It's the point of no return. And by the time the kiss happened in the parking garage, like for me, I was like, okay, now I know that this is over. And, she hasn't figured out how yet, maybe, but it's going to happen as a result of what just went down there. And, when you go back and watch it, you kind of pick up on the fact that she's kind of hating herself the whole way. The way that Ray plays it there, you can see that there's confidence enough to get past what what she needs to do with Cheryl. Like she totally rises to the occasion there. But I feel like if you look at the way that she looks, like she looks like she's a different person, and that she doesn't like who it is. And when you think about the parking garage, Jimmy says, this is the end, or whatever the words that he uses actually are there. This is really the end. And it's sort of like, that's the light bulb moment of like, yeah, doing that actually is, we can't, I can't go on anymore with this.
Yeah, yeah, and he says it's over, really over. Let the healing begin. And I mentioned this, that he says that he delivers that last part with, let the healing begin, without any appreciation for the sense of like what they just did to Cheryl, right? Like they just destroyed this woman. Let the healing begin. And when I watched this live the first time, I actually thought that might be the last time we saw Kim, because it went to commercial right after that. And I turned to my husband. I was like, "Is that it? Is she gone? Like poof?" Because I don't know. It definitely seemed like a goodbye kiss, and their cars facing each other, opposite directions. It was, yeah.
It would have made for a great last scene if that was just it. But I mean, I'm glad they went the other route. But I could see how you get to that and just be like, damn, you know what? That would have been amazing.
I do like what Eric was saying about how Kim was just so cold face in the motel room. Yeah, I don't think that was the last straw, but I think that she was definitely thinking about it. And then when everything with Cheryl happens, it kind of solidified that. I like the catch that Courtney made in regards to Kim standing up to Lalo being similar to Kim standing up to Cheryl. And I wonder if Kim almost had that planned where she was hoping she wouldn't have to say something like that, but then she did, and it ended up, kind of being that final straw.
Yeah, and I've read a lot of interviews since I watched it, and I'm not sure where I picked up on it, but at least some of the creatives behind making it, they thought of that as her, the end for her, like when it really clicked. But I've seen some different ideas too, so it's left up for us to figure out. And I yeah, I've had so many comments about the Cheryl thing. I mean, it's such a perfectly written scene, because like I said, and Eric, like how you pointed out, that she kind of Ray Seahorn kind of carries that lost look throughout all of these scenes from that point forward. You know what I mean? So there's just so much going on, and I agree with what you were saying earlier too about how it's so rewatchable just for those things. So many of those things you don't notice on the first pass, and they come up, and we're just really lucky to have this right now. I feel like.
It's funny in your chat. There's a lot of people talking about Cliff Main, and I don't think anyone's ever thought about this. How he is a guy that I think we all need to feel so sorry for. He's caught like the deer in headlights in so many occasions, like with the scam, the cocaine, and the hooker rolling out of the car, and now like up at the funeral, he's like, he just does not want to be involved in this. He admired Howard. I really feel sorry for him.
Yeah, he does a great job. I brought this up in the last stream. I mean, he has such a he doesn't do a lot in any of the episodes he's in, but he makes such a big impression, because we can all kind of realize, we've all kind of been in that position before, where we're like in the middle of something that we just don't want to, it just keeps coming, and we just want to get out, because we feel bad for everybody involved.
The cool thing about him, he's a Spinal Tap alum with Chuck as well too, Michael McKean.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he was the drummer. He was one of their many drummers that supposedly spontaneously blew up.
Oh, wow, I didn't know
that.
James Egan, thanks for the A$7.99. Wouldn't Jimmy want Kim to leave if he still thinks Lalo is alive? How can they justify Saul saying his last name is McGill to Walt in Breaking Bad? Wouldn't Jimmy want Kim to leave if he still thinks Lalo is alive? I think Jimmy would want to be with Kim. If he thought that she had to leave, then they would leave together. I think is where I would go on that. How can they justify Saul saying his last name is McGill to Walt in Breaking Bad? I'm not sure why that would be a problem. Nobody really remembers him as Jimmy McGill in that timeline, but it's not a secret. He's not hiding his identity. He chose the name Saul Goodman as a response to his brother dying. He's doing the same kind of compartmentalization that he does here when Kim leaves. There's sort of a pattern of it. If you watch, like, I've been going back and watching scenes for a different video I'm working on, and when Marco dies, he does this the first time. He won't tell Kim what's really going on. Instead, he goes into the bar and they do their first scam. She asks him directly, like, what happened in Cicero? And he says, nothing about what happened in Cicero. It's just, I'm done with this lawyer profession or whatever. And so, Saul isn't a way of hiding who he was. It's just, he's just going down this road that, it seems natural, and his real, I guess to him, it seems natural for his reaction to the things that are happening in his life.
I'm glad you
Anybody
mentioned Marco, because remember, you notice whenever he was about to do something bad, he'd spin his ring. Remember?
Yeah, he'd always touch the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like his little talisman.
Yeah.
Can I say something here? So the point that
Yeah.
James brings up, that wouldn't he want her to leave if he thought Lalo was still alive? And I think he did. And so going back to like the end of season 5, when he asks if he's bad for her, the way I read that is that he was about to break up with her. And so thinking of their relationship in context of what happened with the Howard scheme, and I've been reflecting on it a lot since Monday, I think that perhaps maybe what Kim was doing in that moment when they're in the hotel room was trying to cheer Jimmy up and also come up with a reason for them to stay together. Like, going after Howard would give them something to do together. Because I really think he was starting to debate, like, maybe we should break up. I don't know if that's how everyone else read it, but the going back.
Yeah, I did. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So when she's in their breakup scene in the most recent episode, when she says, I knew what would have happened if, you found out. And I think that she's referencing the fact that they would have broken up because Jimmy would have been too scared about what might happen with Lalo. So I think James does raise an interesting question, and certainly trying to predict what would happen here, how their relationship would end. That was something that I was considering, that maybe Jimmy would fear for her if he doubts that Lalo is really dead.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, it does make sense, and that's something that I always wondered about and had talked to people about in the past, and I think they made that explicit. Like, I think I read in a either a Bob Odenkirk or a Ray Seahorn interview that, yeah, part of why she even brings that scam up with Howard is because she's trying to bring Jimmy out of his, out of his PTSD, basically, from what happened in the desert and what's going on in his life. And she knows that that's where they connected before. So, hey, this will make him feel better. And we saw that kind of work on a certain level once he got over his, his initial not wanting to do it in season 6. He kind of came back a little bit before everything went wrong again. 8HNIC8, thank you for the $4.99. The director for episode 10 has directed the most Breaking Bad episodes and some of the most intense, violent Breaking Bad scenes. Foreshadow for BCS episode 10. Thank you, Kiwi and Courtney. Yeah, Michelle MacLaren, she's done a couple of Better Call Saul, but she was a lot more involved in Breaking Bad and just more active, I think, in general. She's done episodes of a ton of shows that great shows and great episodes. So it is exciting to see her come back here. I don't know. I got the impression, I don't know if you guys had this also, but I got the impression that this might be a funny episode. I know that Peter Gould at one point said that they have one that's really unexpectedly funny, and it seems like that might fit in here, especially with Walt and Jesse coming back. I'm not sure. I don't anticipate a lot of violence in the Breaking Bad the time we spend in Breaking Bad, but I don't know. I'll throw it out to you guys. What do you guys think?
We're stumped. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know either. So
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the title, of course, everyone's questioning what the title could possibly mean, Nippy, right? So I was thinking, obviously, weather, right? So maybe it's in a cold environment. So maybe we're back in Nebraska. I was also thinking about a line that Kim's mom says in the flashback when they're in the department store. She says it twice, actually. Nip it in the bud, right? So maybe Nippy could be like Kim's mom, or a reference to Kim nipping her bad behavior in the bud, something like that. I have no idea what to expect with episode 10. I have no clue.
I mean, just the really quick I mean, I from what I understand, Walt and Jesse are absolutely showing up in this episode. That's correct, right? That's been
I believe so.
Yeah, that's.
But I mean, I think that they've actually confirmed that, right?
Yeah, I think there was a Deadline article where I think Aaron Paul confirmed that Jesse would be in the next episode.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I couldn't remember exactly, so thank you for those details.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that we can talk about that too in a bit, but I mean, I think it's gonna. I don't know. I can't really see that being violent. You know, like I don't really. It's not coming to my head right at the moment. Like but I could see it being like, you know, give us a different take on the way that he got to know them, or sort of underestimated them, and then how that, you know, kind of has an effect on his state of mind whenever he's in the Gene timeline.
Well, what I'm interested in is, are we going to get some sort of story arc that either lasts one episode or two episodes that goes alongside Breaking Bad, but we see it from Saul's perspective? Or is it going to be a bunch of strung along missing scenes, kind of like all the missing scene flashbacks from El Camino? Because I originally thought that the Walt and Jesse cameos were just going to be sort of like a cold open, kind of like episode 405, Quite a Ride, but now it seems like we're going to have a full episode or two in the Breaking Bad timeline. And in regards to Bob Odenkirk mentioning, you know, that Carol Burnett was going to play a major role in some sort of story arc here, I'm wondering if they're going to do some sort of full-blown arc that lasts a full episode or two in the timeline. I just think that'd be really interesting for them to try and come up with something original to go alongside the events of Breaking Bad while also weaving through them at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it could be interesting. One of the things that I think about is, you know, when you're doing a prequel, you can pretty much presume that everybody's seen the original series. It's one of the most popular TV series of all time. But then, you know, in the future, do you really want to show a lot of stuff that happens in the original, in the prequel? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of an interesting situation there of like, when you watch the Breaking Bad for the first time, you don't really want to know too much about, you know, those characters. Like, does that make sense?
It does, yeah, because you've already seen it. And we watch it 100 times over, so we know what's happening with Walt and Jesse, stuff like that. But I do like the thought of seeing it possibly. They could be very little in this, but important. And I'm seeing it through Saul's eyes, from his perspective. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool. And we do know that they don't do things just for fan service. So it's not just going to be, oh look, there they are at a red light. You know, like it's going to be something. I just don't know what it is yet, but.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think like when we see Walt and Jesse, it has to further the Better Call Saul storyline somehow. It has to tell us something more about the characters. So I was trying to think of like when in the timeline it would make the most sense. I know a lot of people think like it might pick up right like where they first meet him, but I don't think that's necessary. And why show us something we've already seen? So yeah. I was thinking maybe something like maybe when right when they're like when Walt and Jesse are planning on killing Gus, and perhaps when they're in like the laser tag, and you see Mike go into Saul's office and he threatens to break his legs. I think that would be an interesting moment to see from Saul's point of view, and also maybe gives a little bit more context to their relationship, perhaps. I don't know, something like that. I'm not saying it's going to be that, but something that furthers the storyline in some way.
And two, they can try some things that they did, like they maybe thought, I wish we could have did this in the Breaking Bad environment. Now they can actually finish some things maybe that they wanted to finish and they've moved away from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was looking at this interview where he said, you know, they were coming back, and he said, I think the way you see them and when you see them won't necessarily be what you'd expect. So, I mean, I've always kind of thought that they would be in the Breaking Bad timeline because it just didn't make as much sense story-wise for them to be in the BCS time. So I don't know if he's referring to that there. But, he also said that I think the way that they do appear is all about the story of Jimmy McGill and Kim Wexler and Mike Ehrmantraut, which, that makes you think, oh, well, maybe he'll actually be with those characters. But I think what he's saying there is more of like, it'll be about this, the Better Call Saul story, not about, adding details to Breaking Bad or putting a finer point on things from the better, Breaking Bad perspective.
Yeah.
So-
Well, with the Peter Gould interview, we know that the Walt and Jesse cameo will have something to do with the Jimmy, Kim, and Mike relationship, because that's what Peter was saying in that interview. So made a whole video about this, but long story short, I wonder if Jimmy and Mike will just mention Kim in front of Walt and Jesse, or if Walt and Jesse will actually meet them briefly at some point. And to add to what Courtney was saying, I would like to see more Mike versus Saul, some sort of altercation there. I would really like to see more of these sort of missing scene type of situations, like from El Camino, where we saw Jesse talking to Mike, which was in between one of the episodes after Jesse leaves Walt. He's whistling happily while Jesse's sad over that kid on the dirt bike dying, and then the missing scene happens, and then Mike and Jesse go and tell Walt that they're out of the game. Or the missing scene with the RV after they get out from being trapped in the desert. So something like that would be really nice. I'd like to see maybe more behind the scenes with Walt telling Saul he wants to steal the Ryson cigarette. One of my favorite Walt theories is having a missing scene during the time that Walt and Saul are hiding in Ed's vacuum store while waiting to be relocated during one of the final few episodes. So a lot of missing scenes that they could do that I think would be really good. I'd also like to see more of Saul's class action lawsuit on Wayfair 515. Maybe potentially have Saul speak to Walt about it, since Walt is somewhat guilty for it but refuses to admit it. I think that could be interesting. I think it would be something more than just, oh, Mr. Mayhew walks in the door and curtain call, or we see Walt at the car wash and curtain call. It has to have some sort of significance towards that. But I'm just really interested in how the Walt and Jesse cameo could aid the Mike, Jimmy, and Kim relationship, especially if Kim's not in the picture in Breaking Bad. That just really threw me for a loop when Peter Gould said that. So I'm really interested to see what exactly will happen there.
Yeah, I mean, the way I interpreted that was that, the story, he's saying the story of those three, which is Better Call Saul, you know what I mean? So how his relationship to Walter White affects him, that has an effect on Kim also, just because that she's a part of his life as well. It could be more literal, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to be a little bit cute there. I'm not sure.
I could be taking it a little bit too literally. Like, maybe Walt and Jesse don't actually meet Kim, but I would like to hear Mike or Jimmy bring it up in passing while in front of them. I think that'd be really interesting for Walt and Jesse to have at least heard of Kim at some point. Not enough to, be significant, because we have to work within the confines of Breaking Bad, but I still think that would be an interesting take.
Absolutely. David Rogers, thank you for the $10. The happy ending, Jimmy coming clean and going to prison where he helps fellow inmates with their legal problems. Yeah, we were talking about this just a minute ago, and I don't know if there's anything else to add. I just, my thought on it is I don't need to see that happen. I mean, the fact that we all are in agreement that might happen is enough for me, but we could see they might go there. Drew Shape, thank you for the €5. Last 2 to 3 episodes were great, but chicanery is still the best in my opinion. Would love to see Chuck come back for a flashback. Do you think it's possible?
I sure hope so. I don't think
so.
Yeah,
it's one of those things, like I would love to see it. I don't necessarily think it's in the cards though.
Yeah, I really wish though.
I could see them doing it. So, like, how at the end of Breaking Bad, like, they have the flashback to, like, Jesse and Walt when they first cook. And Walt with Skylar and the happier days. So I could see like perhaps they do a flashback for Jimmy remembering things from earlier on in the series. I could see that.
Maybe like Jimmy out of jail, slipping Jimmy out of jail back in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah, I absolutely think it would make sense. I just the one thing that kind of makes me think that they're not is Michael McKean. He kind of made that statement about if you keep bringing him back, then it loses some of its weight or whatever. I can't remember how he said it, but he didn't think that they would be doing too many flashbacks, but of course it would make sense. I mean, he was such a big part of the series, and we're almost at the point at the end of season 6, we almost had as many episodes without him as we had with him at this point. So it would be great and he's a great actor, so anytime you can get him involved, like, let's do that. Bertalon Gardos, Huff 400. Thank you for that. That's going to be the latest episode. Lastus. Okay. I was doing autocorrect in my reading there. Yeah, that's going to be what is. I'm a little bit. Do you guys have any interpretation of this?
Maybe they mean like episode 10 coming up. Maybe that's the latest episode. I think maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how to respond to it. I'm trying to get some context from what's going on in the chat at that time, but I'm not coming up. I'm sorry, Bertalon. I do appreciate the super chat, but I don't know how to answer it.
Yeah, I'm at a loss.
Stringfellow Hawk, thank you for the 5. There's a lot to talk about Gene Saul returning to turn himself in. Was he ever known to be working for Walt by law enforcement? I've forgotten. It's heavily implied. If you watch the American Greed segment they made, it's absolutely explicit in that. But yeah, there's this teaser that they put out before the season where there's a wanted poster, and I'm kind of thinking that that's showing us the end of the series, and we just sort of it was just so shocking that they put that out before the season that we kind of all collectively just sort of do a little bit of compartmentalizing ourselves and be like, well, that can't actually happen if they showed it to us, right? But I do believe they never made it explicit inside any episode or during the run of the show, but I believe he's a known associate, and they want him because they know he is alive, and he's facing all sorts of jail time if they do get their hands on him.
Yeah, I mean, Saul's associated with Walt, right? And I've honestly gotten so many comments of people being like, why is Saul even on the run as Gene? Why is he like it? I don't know. I've just gotten a lot of comments questioning that. And in regards to the American Greed and the Saul Bounty promo, whether it's canon or not, I'm not sure if they've confirmed it or not. I choose to believe that they're both canon, but that's just me. I'm not sure if you guys believe that it's canon or not, because sometimes they do promos that are just promos. But I mean, even with the El Camino promo with Skinny Pete, getting arrested and being interrogated, I still choose to believe that that's canon as well, even though it's not an actual movie. But again, that's just me.
Yeah, I agree that it's definitely canon. And also just one more thought about why Jimmy would be wanted or Saul would be wanted is I think probably like all of the sort of legal services that he was providing for Walt. I mean, he never actually goes to court or I think like actually does any paperwork or anything like that. So everything was off the books. You see that Walt pays him in rolls of cash. So certainly the IRS is going to be interested. And of course, the checks made out to Ice Station Zebra Associates, the loan out. So there's some big questions that remain about that. And is that above board, or how is that business working? So I think that probably is in large part why he is wanted.
That's basically how they use RICO laws, and he would fall under all kinds of conspiracy and organized crime in a way, wouldn't he?
Wouldn't that be funny if the Kettlemans turn him in for tax evasion?
Ironic.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. Liberty tax
Yeah,
fraud investigation.
I don't know if it was your idea initially or not, but Courtney, you brought up the idea of the Kettlemans being behind Ice Station Zebra, and
Yeah.
I think there's some definite possibility of that.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about the sorry, Chase, but the American Greed thing, right? And like how they're interviewed of all the potential clients, why those two? So maybe they make some sort of plea with the DA and they spill everything that they know, and they claim that they were, forced to do this by Jimmy against their will, sort of thing. So I was just kind of imagining that as a scenario, that they are the Ice Station Zebra associates.
Did you did you mention that in one of your videos, or is that a theory that you've been floating around for a while? Or
Yeah, I mentioned, I don't know if we actually talked about it live, Pete. I know we've spoken about it before, and it's I don't know if I have actually mentioned it in a video or not. I think I did. Pretty sure I did, like a theory and prediction video a while back.
okay, because yeah, all I was gonna say is that I've gotten like a comment or two saying that, but it was really recent, so that'd be funny if it kind of came through the grapevine from one of your videos or something like that.
It would explain the inflatable Liberty on top of his building.
Yeah, someone said that here. Yeah, I saw that.
All right. The Recovery 716, thank you for the $9.99. All my favorite channels in one place. Breakups in general suck. I thought Kim was going to break up with him in Wexler v. Goodman. You guys think the cab driver has something to do with Kim? I do not.
Oh God, Pete.
Yeah, I don't think he has anything to do with Kim. Trying to think of how to just say this succinctly. I understand that and Chase and I have talked about this before. I think we actually cut it from the last video that we made, though. I don't think that conversation ever went out there. But yeah, I understand that there's this this the air freshener. It's kind of a weird thing, and I get the idea that they're trying to there's a way to connect those two dots, but it doesn't make any sense to me because of the way that they first came in contact. Jeff picks him up at the hospital. It seems pretty random. I don't see how you could manufacture that meeting. So that kind of undermines any of like Jeff is working for somebody theories for me.
Yeah, I agree.
You guys can tip in.
I think that I do agree that I think that Jeff picking up Gene from the hospital was coincidental, and if they try to make it seem like it was intentional, that would be a tricky retcon to do, because I don't think that was their original intention. Now with the potential Jeff the cab driver recasting, I guess anything's possible, but I just don't think that's the case. And also, don't think Jeff would have been so maniacal about it. I think he would have been more straightforward. Hey, Kim hired me to come find you. You got to come with me. I don't think he'd just, oh, you'll do better next time. Seems like such a weasel. Seems like he has his own agenda. I don't think he'd be so mysterious if it was just Kim. But yeah,
he's threatening him, right? I mean, isn't that the interpretation? Is like he's not like, like I'm going to do something, but he's letting him know that he could do something, right?
Yeah, it's that subtle implication of you'll do better next time. Well, what does he mean by that? Do better next time when? He clearly isn't an undercover cop. He didn't just, he would have just arrested him right then and there. But what does he have planned for him? That's the whole thing that I guess Gene wants to put a stop to before he finds out. But yeah, we definitely circled the drain with that topic a lot, trying to think this. I do like the initial theory. I do like the initial idea that maybe Jeff has something to do with Kim because of the isotope air freshener, but that's just because of the fact that I wanted that isotope air freshener that Kim holds up to have some greater significance, because they knew that we see that the first thing we're going to think of is Jeff, but it could have just been as simple as showing that that's a very common object in Albuquerque, and that's about it.
Misdirection.
Yeah, maybe these air fresheners are sold at A1A car wash.
Yeah,
there you go.
E-Covenant Kid, thank you for the $5. While I think it's unlikely, seeing Jimmy reflect on his wedding photos Huel took would be very bittersweet. Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at that scene yesterday, and it's
Okay.
such a great little wedding they have there. Such a if I was Jimmy and I looked at those, that would actually, would crush me. So I agree with you 100%. The recovery 716. Thank you for the 199 again. This is a direct Kiwi question. When's your season 4 tier list dropping?
I'll give you a quick update on that. I just finished the scripting for all 10 episodes. I just gotta record and edit it, so that's where I'm at for that right now.
Cool. The Judo Joker, thank you for the 10. My prediction will get a Saul only episode and a Kim only episode. In the Kim only episode, my theory is it would start with flashback of Kim helping her mom cover up a fatal hit and run. That's a twist that I have not thought of, that her mom might need her for something like that. Yeah, so a couple of things. This brings up a couple of things that we wanted to hit on. One of the things is, hey, like one of the things that I thought about after the fact is that episode 9 actually feels like a series finale, and I'll let you guys all one by one kind of weigh in on that. But if it was intended that way, if they did want to tie up all of the story threads that were happening in the BCS timeline, which they pretty much did. They capped off Gus's story really well. They kind of gave Mike that moment with Manuel Varga that really put a nice put a nice stopping point for his story through BCS. Just sort of a conclusion. If that's the case, they really can do anything in this next 4 episodes. And one of the things they could do is they could do a complete Kim story, because I've talked about this, this idea of addiction and about abstinence. If she's choosing abstinence and she's leaving him, so that makes it really kind of tricky if they were going to come back together. So the question is, like, do we have another Kim arc? Is that something that's going to happen? Because we kind of have to see how she gets to wherever she's at. She can't. I don't think she can be a complete mystery. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think she can be a complete mystery of like what she's been up to and what's happened to her over all those years. It's like 6 years, right? And just have her show back up in the Gene timeline. So could we get a whole full Kim episode, or a lot of Kim, Gene-ish kind of scenes mixed in there with whatever's going on? So yeah, I like this question. Thank you, Judo Joker. I like the idea of that fatal hit and run, although I don't know there's any evidence that something like that would happen. So yeah, we'll just go down the line, and it's a lot to bring up. But Eric, you can go first if you want. Touch on any of those.
I don't think we'll get a full Kim episode, and as much as we were hoping for a full Gene episode, I'm not even sure if we'll get that, because there's not a lot of episodes left, and there's still a story to tell. But I think we're going to see a lot more of Kim. I think we're going to see more of Kim where she is, where she's decided to go to. That's not the last we're going to see of her. But I don't think we're going to see a full episode. And as you talked about, if that was the last ending, let's just say there's some force of nature that made that the last episode. For whatever reason, I could have lived with that, but I'm glad it didn't. Like, I mean, it was great. I could be okay. That was pretty darn good ending. No one, not like Breaking Bad when Walter dies. I'm just glad that we do have some more. It's like we're graced by 5 more or 3 more episodes. I forgot what count we were at for a second, but yeah, it's a little bit of bonus content for us now. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that they've implied that they're going to take some big swings and do some different things that we couldn't have seen coming, and that's pretty exciting, and I like that they kind of did such a good job, like you said, Eric, of just like that could have been the series finale.
Mhm.
Like, I would have been totally happy with that. It would have been haunting me, like what comes next. And they kind of can't do that because they did introduce Gene, but as far as like wrapping up that story, I thought they did a fantastic job. What do you think, Courtney?
Yeah, so we chatted a little bit about this before we started, but this did feel like a conclusion to the Better Call Saul storyline, right? So everything is wrapped up. We get to see what happens with Gus. We get to see what happens with Mike. And in my opinion, it's kind of like the last step in the transformation to the characters that they are in Breaking Bad. So I would love to see more Kim, and I think we will definitely see more Kim. Like Eric, I'm not sure that we'll get a full Kim episode. I would love that. I would love to see more of her. And I was thinking a little bit about the end of season 1, the beginning of season 2. So we have Marco and then Switch. And when Jimmy decides to quit the law, so it's before he gets, suspended, he goes back to Cicero. And I was wondering if we would see something, a parallel to Kim. Where does Kim go at this point? Does she stay in Albuquerque? I mean, she packed up all her stuff. I think she's probably getting out of town. Does that mean going back to Red Cloud for some reason to face some old ghosts there? Or does she go elsewhere? I think we certainly haven't seen the end of Kim's story. I don't know if we'll get it in the next episode. I don't know if they'll do that. Maybe they'll wait a while to show us what's going on with her. But I think we're definitely going to see her. And as far as the series goes, I think there's really only one major question left to answer, and that is really what happens with Gene, and does Jimmy Saul Gene have to face up to who he is and what he does or what he did. So I think that's and I say that as sort of to preface that I think everything that happens from here on out has to serve that question, or that one plot point of what's going to actually happen to him. What does he deserve? What's going to happen?
Yeah, I wanted to. There's a couple of things you said that I wanted to touch on, because we're hitting the 90-minute mark here, and I'm not sure how long you guys can stay. Don't worry, I'm gonna answer all of the super chat. I know there's a lot of them waiting there, so don't worry. I'm gonna go through all those, but I'm not sure if everyone else is going to be able to stay for how long and all of that. So you brought up the idea of the how it needs to serve that, and in your opinion, what does the show need to do in the last 4? I mean, I'm asking you this specifically because I know that I know what you studied at school and all of that. So what do you think the show has to do? Like,
Well,
if this was a story, like if you're just thinking about it story wise, like what is the responsibility of a story when it gets to this point?
well, I think, and this is something, a point that I made in the video that I just put up, my breakdown of this episode. I think we see all the characters reckoning with who they really are, right? So like they go face to face with other characters, and in that moment they see themselves reflected back to them. So you have that moment with Gus and the cartel and the hatred in his eyes, and there's it's such a great shot of the fire in his glasses, and the line that Don Eladio says about like how he saw a little bit of the hate in his eyes. And then you see him in this next scene in a much lighter, brighter moment where he's I think the only genuinely happy moment that we have ever seen with Gus. And he, the taste of the bloody wine, he remembers sangre por sangre, and he comes to terms with who he is and what he really wants, and he's bent on revenge, right? And I think that's the moment where he puts aside any other thoughts about what his life could be, and decides that this is the trajectory for him. And I think with Mike, the moment when he comes to face with Manuel Varga is the same thing. He has this idea of himself, and I think when he's describing Nacho as this guy with a good heart who just got caught up with the wrong people, I think that's
He's
kind
just
of
talking about himself, huh?
Yeah, it's a projection of himself, right? That's how he wants to view himself. And then even though Mike doesn't speak Spanish or probably understand Spanish, I think he can certainly, infer what the tone means, right? Like the sort of disdain that he says, like you're all the same. And that's not justice, that's revenge. And I think he's holding up a mirror to Mike, and Mike is really taking a hard look at himself. And he's accepting that this is who and what he is. And so just another point about Mike that we were talking about, Pete, is this idea of sobriety and addiction. And we see Mike holding a beer in this episode as he's sitting on his chair watching the game right before he goes
Pabst
to go.
Blue Ribbon.
Exactly, yeah. So he's kind of, I think, surrendered a little bit to the I guess the darker impulses, or that this is just who and what he is. Yeah, and so far I think with Kim, of course, that reckoning comes when she comes face to face with Cheryl. So I think she's the one that steps away. She's like, this is not what I want, and she's the one that, goes cold turkey, if you wanted to follow through with the sort of addiction metaphors there. But I think, to answer your question, since that's what we've been shown already with all the other characters, that is what's missing with Jimmy. And instead of facing up to who or what he is, he goes into like Saul mode, right? And the fact that they show him from the moment his eyes open in the morning, that he's go, 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 todo negocios, it's all business, right? That is how he is coping, by just distracting himself and throwing himself into this persona and this act. So I think he definitely needs to come to terms with who he is, what he's done. And I hope there's some hope for redemption for him. Maybe he comes back and tries to set things right in some way. That's what I'm hoping will happen. That's what I think probably will happen, but we'll see. I don't see him getting away with it.
No, it wouldn't be fitting. There needs to be resolution to him, at least, if not one for one. Like he has to get to that same place that the other characters, the way that you just laid out so perfectly there. And I was just thinking when you were talking, maybe Eric or Kiwi might know the answer to this. It's been a while since I rewatched Breaking Bad in its entirety, but how long was Walt in exile? But do you guys know, either one of you?
Offhand, I don't.
He went up. He went with Ed, and he was there for a period of time, right? He hid out in, what was it, New Hampshire?
Mm-hmm.
At least 6 months for sure. Maybe the better part of a year.
That's what my guess would have been.
It's implied,
so yeah. So like I was just thinking about that a little bit in relationship to Gene. Like how long his exile's been. It has to be longer than that, right? You know what I mean? Because they both disappeared at the same time.
Yeah, true. That's good to compare.
Yeah, so he's been living with himself without the filter for a while by the time that we see Jeff come into his life. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, Courtney, that he that should be enough time for him to put it together and just say, like, I have to reckon with this, because that's just kind of how stories work, right? That's how you kind of get to a conclusion. So yeah, Chase, I didn't mean to cut you out of that. You can chime in on all those different things too if you want to.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually just looked up on the Breaking Bad fandom, and it says Granite State happens from March 15th to September 4th, so 6 months. So I guess he was up there for 6 months. In regards to the whole Kim or Jimmy episode, I don't think they're gonna do an entire bottle episode. I mean, The Walking Dead kind of put a bitter taste in my mouth in regards to bottle episodes. Shout out season 7. I like The Walking Dead season 7 more than most people, honestly, and they've done some really good episodes, like Here's Not Here, the Morgan Monk backstory from season 5 or 6, I believe. It's one of my favorite episodes. So my point being is that sometimes a bottle episode can be a little bit underwhelming, because even though you tell a really good story with just one or two characters, you can get stuck there. And if you have too many bottle episodes in a row, especially, it takes too many episodes to get back to what the viewers really want to see. So if we did see a mainly Kim episode, because I would like to see what she's doing during Breaking Bad, maybe catch up with her and her mom, or even if it's just a really tiny scene with her mom, even if her mom's not Carol Burnett, is some other actor, I would still like to see a little bit of that. If we do get a Kim heavy episode, it would still be nice to jump back and forth between maybe one or two other characters or timelines or something like that. I don't think that we're gonna, I mean, technically we could get a Saul bottle episode with him during his Breaking Bad shenanigans, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a quote unquote bottle episode. I think we will jump back because even in season 1 with Mike's episode 50, it wasn't technically a full on Mike bottle episode because we did see Jimmy get involved with helping him in the current timeline with the detectives. So even though it was a Mike, heavy episode, we still saw a little bit, of Jimmy and whatnot. I think that's like the only episode that Kim wasn't in. So it's gonna be kind of weird not seeing Kim for a few episodes if that's the case. I do think that she has to play a major role in the series finale, but yeah.
Can I ask you, just so I can respond to what you're saying? Like, well, how are you defining bottle episode? Are you like, when I think of the word bottle episode, I think about like a really focused location that they use to save. Like this applies a little bit more to like old network TV shows, like where they would cut budget on one thing by having everything happen in one room or one location, and so they would call that a bottle episode because of that. But it would have the other it would have the other effect of like really focusing in on one aspect of a character or something like that. So you're talking more about that, I guess, when you're saying when you're using the definition, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess people have different definitions of bottle episodes. I know that was a debate within The Walking Dead, because we were calling season 7 bottle episodes, and people are like, well, technically it's not. But I'd say, like, for example, an episode that's only Kim. We don't see anyone else from the main cast, just Kim and maybe a surrounding few characters around her. Doesn't necessarily have to only be in one location, but it could be, like in The Walking Dead, there was a Maggie and Sasha episode that was just at the hilltop, and then we have a Daryl and Negan episode that's just at the sanctuary, and then we have a Carol and Morgan episode that's just at the kingdom. And so I guess kind of, just one character focus, just one isolated story with one or two characters for the entire duration of the episode, essentially.
Yeah, because one of the things that, because I had a comment about that kind of made me think about that, and like, someone said that they could give Kim her 50, like in relation to Mike's season 1 episode, like sort of his origin story into that timeline. And I thought that made sense in that context. Like I wasn't thinking about it as taking away from the other thing. I was thinking about it more, but like helping to make sense what happens at the very end, because like I was saying, like she's not at a place whenever she's wrapping up those boxes to come back into Jimmy's life. She's making a conscious decision to leave it because like all the things that we've said so far, like it actually makes sense. We don't want to see it happen, but it's actually kind of the responsible thing to do.
I guess the only technical bottle episode that Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul has ever done would be the Fly episode, right? Because it's
that's a classic. That's a classic example of what the way people use it, sort of like as a pejorative, like that it's a bad thing when shows do it because they're trying to save budget, and they tell this story that goes nowhere for just the sake of moving things along at a different pace or whatever.
It can be really polarizing for sure, right? Because a lot of people absolutely hate the Fly episode. A lot of people absolutely love the Fly episode. Sometimes bottle episodes can be really good for character building and backstory and just a really in-depth focus on a particular character or two. But, we only have 4 episodes left. I don't really think we have time for that. So if we did have a Kim heavy story or a Saul heavy story, I think it would still kind of be like Mike's 50, where it was mostly Mike, but then we still saw a little bit of Jimmy here and there. So even if it was a Kim heavy episode, I think we would see a little bit of other characters, kind of floating around, whether cutting to and from, whether they're involved with Kim or not. I still think that we would see a little bit of something else as well. It wouldn't just be 100% only Kim, essentially.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to. I didn't really mean to be like, they have to push everything else out just so we can focus on Kim. I think one of the things they do really a great job of is setting up these things that mirror other things from the different characters, and that would certainly be fine to throw that. I was thinking about that earlier. Whenever you think about episode 3, the only thing that really, the big thing that happens is it's Nacho's end. But even in something like that, they still manage to throw in some really interesting stuff that's going on, outside of that, like with the DA and her investigation, and what's going on with different
Do you want
things
to be a
outside
friend
of
of
that.
the cartel, or do you want to be a rat?
Yeah, that does happen in the exact same episode.
Yeah.
All
I'd
right,
actually
so
to go down that rabbit hole too hard.
Courtney or Eric, do you guys want to add anything there? Because I'm going to jump back into the questions if not.
No, I'm okay myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Commodus, thank you for the 5. Why does Kim say you would pull the plug on the scam and then we would break up? She's only staying with him because the scams they do. Yeah, this is interesting. This is something we could talk about. My interpretation is that not that it's the only reason they're together, but it is a reason they could break up. Does that make sense? Like it's a big part of what keeps them together, but it's also a thing that they could break up about if you try to put on the brakes.
I don't know. I found like when Kim was listing off all the reasons why she didn't tell Jimmy about Lalo, I didn't really find. Maybe I got to rewatch that scene. Maybe there is an and then we would, but I didn't really think of those two things as being related. I thought that her not telling Jimmy because she wanted to go along with the schemes, I thought that was separate than maybe them breaking up. Like one thing is that, oh, you would want to run away and go and hide in a hotel to make sure we're safe, so we wouldn't do the schemes, and I wanted to do that. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how not doing the schemes would lead to them breaking up, because, well, I mean, doing the schemes is kind of what brought them together, right? Because the first time we ever see them kiss is after they do that scheme in the con in the season 2 premiere, and every single time that they do con, I believe in what was it, season 3 or season 4, I think it was season 4, Kim gets mad at Jimmy because of the whole Huel situation when he assaulted that off-duty cop or whatever, and Kim got mad that Saul or Jimmy didn't tell her that he was selling burner phones on the side. But then they do that whole Koshada con, and then they pretty much make up because the con sparks their relationship. So I guess maybe Kim thinks that if we're not conning, we're not going to be happy together. But I do think that there is some alternate universe where Jimmy and Kim could still be together without conning.
Yeah, it's super complicated, and I'm going to let you guys. I'm not trying to cut you off, Eric and Courtney. It's super complicated, and it's funny because I keep getting questions, and I'm reading them, and they're really solid questions. If you only focus on one part of what happens there, you know what I mean? Like it's almost impossible to do because it's developing in real time. And you kind of alluded to this earlier, Courtney. The fact that, like, part of what they're doing here, a major part of the reason why they ended up where they did and how Howard ended up dead was because she brought this into their relationship because she thought it would help Jimmy recover from what was going on with the PTSD. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to throw that in there. Like, it's really hard to just pull out one of the things that they say here and be like, why did that happen, or what is the meaning of it? So her saying that they would break up. What was your take on it, Eric?
I don't know.
Like, back to this question here.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I was thinking about this driving the car today. Like, it's Kim will do bad when it's good for Kim. And she seemed to be really invested in this scam. I think more obviously in the initial onset, more than Jimmy was. She really wanted to get Howard back. And it bothers me sometimes that it's the bad things that she'll do, or like she gets mad at Jimmy when he does something wrong, right? A questionable outside the law. What type of lawyer are you going to be? Those questions she's asked him before. You're going to play by the book. And it's okay for her to not play by the book when it's good for her. So I'm not 100% sure. I just don't know, but I'm still baffled on that. I don't know the right answer to that.
Okay, Courtney.
Yeah, it's very complicated, and Chase mentioned the Kushada episode, and that's one that I think where it's a major turning point for Kim, because that's when they go to Lubbock, Texas, and or right after Kushada, and that's when they pull the little like the leaky breast milk on the plan so she can get a bigger lot for Mesa Verde, and they're having that conversation in the diner afterwards, and she says, I think we should only use our powers for good, and he points out, how did what we just do, how was that good, right? Like, it only benefited Mesa Verde. And as I mentioned earlier, Pete, you were alluding to this, I think the whole Howard scheme was really born out of she was trying to save the relationship, because I think Jimmy was on the verge of breaking up with her because of the threat of Lalo. And this was her way of saying, like, look, this is something we do together that's fun. We can bond over this. And it's couched in this false narrative, of course, that it's just to get the money for the pro bono practice and how they'll do good with it. So they're rationalizing and lying to themselves about what it's all about. So I think that line specifically, we would have broken up, was because it was sort of a long time coming, and they would have broken up back at the end of season 5 if they didn't have this scheme.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I read it.
Yeah, and that's like you were saying, that's where it gets complicated, because is she saying that because she's trying to protect Jimmy, you know what I mean? Like, and I think this is where that idea of her having another Kim episode really is interesting to me. Is like, I'm not really sure what really stands out to me as the mystery of this scene at the end is, like, I'm not sure if she's going into exile to sort of punish herself, to sort of take on all the responsibility of this, he and because that's dark, what I mean? Like, I don't really want to accept that that's what's happening. Like, but it's also kind of hard to say, hey, she's doing this because it's the healthy move and she's going to go off and just live a different life, and everyone's going to be better off for it. I mean, we know how that ends up for Jimmy in his transformation to Saul, and you have to imagine that she has something like that ahead of her too. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people throwing out the idea like, oh, they're going to come together at the end, and you're going to realize that she has a different life and she's married and has children or something like that. And it's like, I don't really see how you get from her taping up those boxes to thinking like she just moves on clean. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem natural, like a natural progression for the character for me.
Yeah, agreed. I definitely think she's punishing herself. And I think that scene with her mom again in the department store, I think she was, in some weird way, like, she wanted her mom's attention, and that's what she was doing. And then, she gets reprimanded, and her mom is like, she's going to wish we'd call the police, and, blah, 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 blah. And they walk out, and Kim holds her mom's hand. And then when her mom starts making fun of the store manager, though, and mocking him and how easy it was to dupe him, that's when she lets go of her hand. And I think for Kim, like, that was a problem, right? Like, she wanted consequences. But then, of course, we see the earrings, and she wears the earrings. So you have this, like, duality to Kim. She's very conflicted. And I think, again, like that scene at the end of Point and Shoot, when she's sitting on the bed, that the picture you have up right here is sort of a callback to that scene. And it was going to be a problem for her that there were no consequences, that she's getting away with it again, sort of thing. And I think this is her way of imposing punishment on herself.
Yeah, you bring up the weird choice of continuing to wear the earrings, and I was looking at that too when I was going through old scenes. Like, all of my favorite scenes of them together, she's wearing them. And the one time that I see her take them off and put something else on is after they do the Ken wins scam, and they wake up together. Like, after that actually brings them together as a couple. As at least as far as we know on screen, that's where we first see them get intimate. And the next morning, that's the only time so far in the scenes that I've watched that she puts on the different pair of earrings. So it's interesting. Andrew, thank you for your super chat here. Thanks to all of you for making BCS content. I got a little off topic one here really quick. Anthony Monahan, thank you for the €4.99 on an unrelated series. Any thoughts on the future of The Expanse? I don't have any thoughts right now. I feel like it's we've seen the last of it. I hope that they do pull out the last 3 books because they're fantastic books, but I don't know of anything that's coming in the near future as far as seeing those adapted to the TV show. Stephen Brunel, thank you for the 5. In 606, Kim's mom tells her, "Nip it in the bud." Do you think that the title for Nippy has some possible relation to this? I feel like it might. Courtney brought this up a few minutes ago. She thought that there might be a connection there. I mean, mostly with their names that they have double meaning. So I do think that there'll be the most obvious one will be true, that it's about it being cold. And I think there's a good chance that that is an indication that we're going to see our first gene flash forward. But yeah, it should also have a different meaning, and it could be that. We'll see. Ed Scishands, thank you for the $4.99. What are your thoughts on them jumping even further in the timeline past the Gene timeline? I've kind of already touched on this earlier. I don't really need to see them go past Gene's decision, his decision at the end. They could do that. I mean, I think historically this always kind of turns out bad whenever they show, far into the future at the end of a TV series or a movie. Any of you guys want to add anything more to that idea?
I can't see them going any further. I don't see a need.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Not,
And
not,
go ahead, Chase.
Just say not in this show, but I've always wondered if one day, maybe years down the line, Vince has an idea if they could do just a straight up Breaking Bad sequel, and not even with the same characters, like with a totally new cast, just something drug or cartel related, but within the same universe.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this a lot in the last stream on Tuesday of like, there I wouldn't want that personally, but we might be in the period of time whenever that's inevitable because, I mean, look, you guys have been talking about Walking Dead. I mean, look how many shows they're still spinning off of that at this point.
Oh
So
my goodness.
I'm surprised
like,
Walking Dead Canada already, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's very possible that there'll be other properties that come out of the of this universe that aren't necessarily, that where Vince and Peter don't really have a big involvement, but they still somehow get made.
I mean, like, Vince and Peter have always been so weary of, they don't want to milk that well dry or whatever, but I have faith in them. Like, I don't think they're kind of like, Walking Dead or maybe some other shows that have spin-off series that are kind of I know that Vince only does stuff if he has a really good idea, and I have faith in them. And personally, I wouldn't mind it if they did another Netflix movie, if they did another show. Obviously take a few year break, only do it if you have a good idea, but I have faith in them. If they have a good idea, I say go for it. Don't feel bad about milking that cow, because what they do is great and they only get better and better the more they go.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time too. I mean, they've been doing it for basically 15 years, maybe more than that at this point, right? So,
well, look at it this way too, compared to Walking Dead. Like, as Chase and I are both fans of Walking Dead. I used to be a fan of Walking Dead, and they've had so many showrunners over the course of the series. Whereas, look at Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. You got Vince and Peter,
right?
So that is doable. I don't necessarily think I want to see something else, a sequel to it, but if it means anything, it's just the two of them since day one. So I think that could really help.
At least they're ending on a note where I would still definitely watch anything that takes place in this universe. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't kept up with any of the Walking Dead spinoffs, but my interest is still at a place where I would watch it no matter what.
I don't know. I just want to see. I guess it doesn't even have to be in the Breaking Bad universe. I would just like to see Vince, Peter, Tom, and the same crew do another show together. I would like to see what they would have in store next.
Yeah.
And I just want to throw it out there. We're coming up on 2 hours, so if any of you guys, whenever you're at your limit, just let me know, because I've got a ton of questions here I still got to answer. So I'm gonna go back through them. But if you find a point where you want to bow out, just let me know. Okay.
I'll probably jump top of the hour myself here.
Okay. Devin Bryant, thank you for the 5. Great panel. Love all your channels. Odenkirk said in an interview this week, there's yet another iteration of Jimmy on his way. What might this mean? I've had the same question. I saw that interview and I wasn't exactly sure what he was saying. Do you guys believe that this means that there's another? What I thought initially was that this is what Gene does whenever he takes care of it himself. Is that the general consensus, or do you think that he's hinting at? I mean, I think that when Gene does that, based on all of the stuff we've been saying for the last 2 hours, that he's not exactly going to be Saul again. He may do some of the things that Saul does. He may, get into scamming mode again, like slipping Jimmy, and what he was with Kim. But I think the other iteration, it means that the Jimmy post Gene. What do you guys think?
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. So I think we were kind of already talking about this a little bit, about like him coming back, maybe potentially to Albuquerque to, because he's tired of running. So I don't think he would be returning to Saul. Saul was a mask. Gene is a mask. Jimmy is the real person. At least, that's how I think of him, as Jimmy is the real person, and everything else is just a facade. So maybe that's what that means, like returning to Jimmy.
Chase, you have anything you want to add there?
No, not necessarily, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, I think Jimmy, the guy who wants to find love, the one that wants everybody to like him, who needs love. I think that's true. That is his core. Chandrika Sanwal, thank you for the $2. Kim's lawyer oath teaser, her re-entering law. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I don't know what else I could add to it, but the idea is it could either be a flashback to the first time she became a lawyer. That could be, her remembering that, or it could be her re-entering the law. It's really hard to say, because both of those things don't necessarily, have an instant place where they fit in. Bolivraga, thank you for the $5. They haven't yet touched on the Time Machine book flashback episode. Also, notice the Buck Jones poster in Kim's room was on a slant in 608. The Time Machine, yeah, I don't know. Did anybody here have a great idea of why they decided to use that early on in this season? I've read it. I mean, I know what it's about, but I never really had a great idea of how it was the right choice for this.
I thought it just might be sort of an indication that we would be jumping back and forth in time a little bit, right? So don't expect linear storytelling. And we certainly got that in the most recent episode at the very end, right? It's quite a jump forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the best I could do, basically, that we were going to move through time. But, that's all I got. And the Buck Jones poster, I read people saying that was noticeably off in the scene, that the picture was up right there, and that it would be important, but I don't know how, and I didn't catch it myself. Anybody have anything on that one? Okay. Zabi Woods, thank you for the Sabi Woods. Thank you for the $4.99. I've heard Skylar worked for a taxi dispatch company. Anyway, connected to BCS. That's what she did after Walt was caught, right? Then I would say no. I mean, I think that Jimmy turning himself in, it may be involved with going back to Albuquerque, but I don't have a reason why she would relocate to. I guess the implication here is that might be related to Jeff, right? I mean, Jeff could have worked for her. I guess if you really think about it, but to me, my answer would be no. I don't think it's connected. What do you guys think?
Agreed.
Same.
All right. Aaron, $4.99. Marion is Kim's professor at veterinarian school. Yeah, it brings up an interesting question about that book. We haven't seen that book change hands yet, and not that that's really something I need to see, but there was a name that could have been Marion inside that book. Isn't that right, Chase? The guy who decoded that. Then wasn't there something that could have? Yeah.
I don't recall seeing any Marion in that book.
Yeah, I saw a post. It was it was one where the name you couldn't read the whole thing, but the MA was definitely there, and people were theorizing that Marion was a known associate of Caldera's, and that's why she would be a criminal when she got introduced to the story.
What was that in episode 606? I mean, I could try and check that real quick, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a while since I saw it, so I'm not sure. But there was definitely a post that theorized that one of those entries was Marion.
I'm just looking through the photos I have of that guy that decoded it from Reddit. No, I don't see anything that is even close to Marion, honestly.
All right. We'll move on. Craig Otto, thank you for the 5. This is for Eric. Forgive me if you've done this on your show. I'm newish to you, but could we hear you with the guitar in parentheses riff on the BCS theme on this stream sometime?
I'd love to do it, but I'd probably get PETA copyright strike, so I don't want to do that. But they'll copyright strike it for sure. But thank you.
Yeah, that sucks that that's such a reality.
I could play the Severance theme on piano for you sometime. I don't know if that'll count, but I learned that a few weeks ago, so that was fun.
Well, here's the thing that people don't realize. So let's say we're at a 2-hour mark right now. If I played that tonight, and if I only played for 5 seconds, the copyright strike would come robotically. Of course, there's not people sitting on a computer doing it. It's all robotic.
Yeah.
But Pete would get penalized for the entire video, not just the 30 seconds or 5 seconds. So he would lose any monetization or anything for the entire video. It's just not fair. But
even though it's just a cover, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, some are worse than others. Like the Eagles band is the worst. If you can't even go, huh, and they'll nail you. Yeah.
Oh my
goodness. Mm-hmm. But thank you.
I don't want to go on a rabbit hole here because it's so easy to do about all the problems with the auto detecting. But I thought about that recently because the one teaser trailer, it had that really great song. And I couldn't include that in the video that I made about it because you just can't do that at all.
Oh, when I first showed the clip at the end of Saul in his house.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, when I put that in my video, I had to kind of chop it up and make it quiet. Other than, I don't know, it was this whole thing.
Yeah,
it's one of the things that we deal with as content creators.
Yeah. This is the name. One thing that's cool about this name is that I always recognize it, and I'm always happy to see it again. But also can never pronounce it. Thank you for the $6.99 Canadian. Thoughts on Mike's story going forward? 609 seems like a satisfying end to his BCS story, but it's hard to imagine him not being in the Final Four. I think that Mike or even Gus could show up in it in either in that in the Breaking Bad timeline. Obviously, they die during that, so. But I just don't think that. I think it would be in the service of Jimmy's story, or maybe Walton and Jesse. I don't think there's anything else that they need to really do, except for like what Chase was mentioning earlier. They could show a little bit of the tension that exists between Mike and Jimmy. That they didn't really put a fine point on that before the end of the series. I guess they're not very friendly. They're definitely not friends, I guess, ever, but they're not as uh, you know, warm to each other as they are in the Better Call Saul timeline, I think. Anything you guys want to see with Mike going forward?
I'd be happy with one more. I don't care what it is, just one more.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to see something that Mike did before episode 213 when he's first introduced in Breaking Bad. Like around the time that Saul first gets introduced, around episode 8 of season 2. I think it'd be cool to see that.
Yeah. There's nothing really specific though, you know. I mean, I think that's the big takeaway for me.
Yeah.
Kakazado, thank you for the €2. I think Kim comes back as a lawyer. That's something we were talking about earlier. I think that's possible. Adds his hands. Thanks for the $9.99. I think it would make sense for Gene to ask Kim to turn him in, and Gene pleads guilty. Then Kim won't feel bad about accepting the $5 million, and the oath is her using the money to start a pro bono. Yeah, Ed, we did talk about this also earlier, and mixed thoughts on it. If any of you guys want to add anything else, feel free. While I'm scrolling here,
I mean, I feel like even if Gene does turn himself in, there's still the whole thing with Kim having a problem with the fact that she got away from it, or with it, and even if she didn't, I mean, it's still the fact that she has to live with what happened, regardless of if they face consequences for it or not. Like, it's simply something that you just cannot really undo, and I don't think that any amount of money or, you know, accepting consequences could even really fix that. It's just something that she has to live with.
Yeah, that's one of the points I made in my recap video, was that at a certain point, you know, her idea with the pro bono stuff was that it balanced out the bad, you know, and that's sort of what Jimmy even brings up at the last moment there. He's like, you know, what about your clients? What about all the people you're helping? And I think they're, you know, if you're being honest, there's a point where you can't fix certain things by just continuing to tip the scales, right? I mean, you know, that you realize that you're just chasing, you know, it's sort of like the sunk cost fallacy that was, you know, played a part earlier. Like, you can keep chasing it, but there's never going to be a point where you're like, okay, now the good outweighs the bad. The bad still exists no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, there can be some sort of yin yang if you equal it out. But if you just do a lot of bad and then a little bit of good and then a lot of bad again and then just a little bit of good, I mean, it doesn't really even itself out at all. And at some points, it's impossible to.
Yeah.
Far enough down that bad choice road.
No return.
Eric, do you need to do I need to give you an off ramp here, or?
Yeah, you can kick me off. You can kick me off that bad choice road. I'm gonna jump.
I'm just anticipating the next few minutes where I just jump from one question to the next. So I just wanted to.
No problem.
While we were up for air, I wanted to give you a chance if you wanted to go, because you said top of the hour and we're 10 past.
I think I'm the oldest person here on the panel, and I gotta this old man needs to get sleep.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. We might be in about the same, but
we'll talk off the air.
We'll talk off the air. But yeah, all right. Well, it was great having you. You can you should definitely check out Eric's interviews. Do you have some coming up you can tell us about?
Sure. There's 3 notable ones right now. Friday, August 5th, both Vince and Peter, and it was very funny last night. Josh Fadem from the film crew deemed them as Vinter Gooligan or something like that. Gooligan. So that's the name that he gave the 2 of them. So Vince and Peter will be on together next Friday night, and not next Friday night, August 5th, and August 12th. Bob Odenkirk, Saul Goodman himself will be on with a potential lady. So that's a good one. And then coming up after that, just have to schedule the slot. the all three of the film students will be on together as well too. So we're looking forward to that.
That's cool.
I
Has
had
Tom
something I
Tom
want.
rejoined you on that?
I'm not sure. Tom's got an open invitation. He said he's going to be coming back, so we'll see. I'm not sure when that is, but he definitely wants to come back. So
Okay. Sorry, Chase. Go ahead.
Oh, it's all good. I just meant to say I meant to catch the Josh Fatum. I had to watch it in post, but I was wondering because they did that like webisode with the camera crew, but in that webisode, Josh's camera guy, his character's name, he calls himself Marshall, which I found very, very particular since I thought his name was Joey Dixon.
Marshall, Joey Dixon, MJD. We were joking about last night.
There we go. Yeah. Because when I first saw that, I was like, "What the heck?" It threw me for a loop.
He was really he kept the conversation going last night. He was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Pete, for having me, and it's great to be here with the great panel here. I'm fans of all of your content, love it to death, and just honored to be here. It's very humbled by it as well.
Yeah, and like I said, check out. I have links in the description here if you want to check out Eric's channel. And yeah, thanks for coming on. We'll have you again. I'm not sure. We'll see. I'll do a little bit of thinking after this one and see if I want to keep doing 2 per week or how we do it. But I'll definitely be in touch, and we'll have you on either on Tuesday or Saturday again. So thanks
Thank you so much. A pleasure. I hope everyone has a nice weekend.
Yeah, you too. See you, man.
All right, take care, everybody.
All right, so you guys strapped in? Are you here with me, or do you need to go too? Because let's do it all at once if we need.
Yeah,
to.
I'm good for a little bit more.
Okay,
yeah, I'm still here.
Cool, because we got a pile of questions here that have just been piling up. So I'm going to try to move quick, but it's difficult because I find all of this stuff fascinating. Like I said, it's just that's why I do this, I guess. So here we go, Captain Murphy, thank you for the 5. I think Gene will pay off Jeff. There's a teaser where we hear Gene say, "There, we're done. We're not friends," or something like that. Yeah, that was my take on that. I did a video about that. I'm sure Chase did a video about that too. Yeah. The thing about it is, though, the question is that part of a bigger play, or is that he really thinks he can pay him off and that's the end? Because usually when you pay off blackmail, the problem is that it never ends there. You know what I mean? And Gene / Jimmy / Saul, he's smart enough to know that, you know, usually if you give somebody a taste, they're going to keep coming back for that whenever they need it. So just asking them nicely, like, we're not friends and stay away, it's not very realistic to me.
I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm pretty sure specifically what he says in that trailer is, if you think of coming back for more, don't. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he should know that if he, blackmail is going to come back, I mean, how much, I was going to bring up Charlie Sheen there for a second, it just keeps going.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult thing, and I think that he would know about that. So my long story short, I think that that's part of a bigger plan,
Yeah.
Ravenstein, thank you for the $5 Canadian. To what degree are the writers constrained to write a story which doesn't spoil Breaking Bad when watched after it? Yeah, I was kind of touching on this earlier. It was kind of just thrown in there with that, but yeah, I mean, I think they do have to take it into consideration that 1, BCS should stand on its own, and then 2, that it shouldn't ruin any of the surprises that happen in the natural progression in case someone watches the prequel before the sequel, or before the original series. I don't know. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
Well, I don't think they are constrained. I mean, because they're going in with the assumption, like if it was just Better Call Saul and the Jimmy storyline, maybe. But if you find out what happens to Gene, that does spoil what happens in Breaking Bad. And there are like flashbacks and other bits of backstory that we get in Breaking Bad that I wonder how people that haven't seen Breaking Bad are understanding Better Call Saul. For example, Gus's feud with the cartel and the Salamancas and what happened to Max, right? So I wonder about things like that, like how that changes the their understanding of the show. So I think it's possible, of course, that you can watch it out of order, but I think you're missing a lot. And certainly how I think probably these last 4 are going to spoil Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it's kind of like, whenever you read books, like I almost always like to read publication order instead of chronological order whenever it's like, some epic series or something like that. I like to think about it how they made it rather than, thinking about it historically, what happens inside the world or something like that.
I mean, people can watch it however they want. Like, for example, there's this thing called Chronologically Lost, where they took the Lost show and put everything in order of the way that things actually happen. And I know that some people like watching the MCU movies in chronological timeline order, or the Star Wars movies. But, for Star Wars, I watch 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3. And the thing is I was thinking about showing one of my friends who hasn't seen Better Call Saul, or Breaking Bad. I was going to show them Better Call Saul first and then Breaking Bad. But then I thought, well, the Gene would they wouldn't understand the Gene scene and what's going on there. And I mean, if it was just like, okay, maybe Saul has moved away and he's living as someone else, why did he change his name? But they laid out he's in hiding. He told Ed that he got made. We saw the 405 flash forward of him calling Ed. Like, they've made a point to show how Jimmy and Saul become Gene in Better Call Saul without needing to see Breaking Bad. So there's still that mystery of why, but just knowing that eventually happens. I mean, we'll have to see what happens in the next 4 episodes, but they've definitely made Better Call Saul with the assumption that you've seen Breaking Bad. Like, when Gus first appeared in season 3, they did it kind of the same way in Breaking Bad, but they did it in such a way where Gus is walking past Jimmy, but he's kind of blurred and you don't see his face at first because they think that you already know what Gus looks like. So they wait for that reveal for when he approaches Jimmy, when he puts his watch in the trash can, and then you see Gus's face. So just moments like that, they assume you've already seen Breaking Bad.
Yeah, and I guess you're right. I mean, it goes both ways. And if I was going to tell somebody to watch, I would tell them to watch Breaking Bad first.
Yeah. Agreed.
Alexander Jovanovich says, or thank you for the £2. Hector would have continued looking for proof in Breaking Bad? Hector would have continued looking for proof in Breaking Bad? Maybe, but I think the last episode did a pretty good job of showing just how it doesn't matter. There's not really much you can do because Eladio doesn't care.
He's an earner.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's kind of like I said, it's almost like you can almost feel sorry or feel bad for Hector briefly when you don't think about just what an awful human being his character is. But I mean, that is something that they've stressed all the way down the line. The reason why Lalo was doing all of what he was doing is because he needed proof before he could actually make a move against Gus. And everyone involved knows that they don't really matter. That if they get killed, someone else is going to take their place. The machine is still going to go. You know what I mean? The cartel is it doesn't really care about individuals. It cares about making money. It's like a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what happens in real life too, right? Like, how long does someone really lead a cartel? And once one boss is out and another cartel takes their spot, I mean, I know that Narcos is dramatized or whatever, but I used to be super into that show, and that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah, and we've come full circle on this Morty Smith quote from before. Thank you for the $1.99. He's rewriting his theory. I'm trying to read it here. Saul will pull one last trick and will talk himself out of trouble one last time with the help of Kim. They will make an elaborate story that Jimmy is a victim and will use real events to support it. Walt and Jesse kidnapped Jimmy. Cartel burned my brother. Lalo killed Howard, etc. They will add more scenes and details in Breaking Bad timeline over the next few episodes to add more supporting details to help. They will do some prep post-Breaking Bad timeline with help of Kim. Kim will serve as witness and testify to support Jimmy's story and other people like Cliff Main. Let's see, it goes on for a little bit more. I have a general idea what you're talking about here. I mean, I can kind of see it. I think it goes against where they're at right now, character-wise. I think there have to be some pretty big changes that would happen. What do you guys think about this? The general premise is that the one last the last trick will be for Saul to talk himself out of trouble, and Kim will help him do that.
I'm not too sure, honestly.
You guys are rushing to give your opinions.
I was trying to read that
it's really difficult to read a multi-part.
It was like six different comments or whatever. I was thinking maybe if you could try and condense it a little bit, but yeah.
So that basically Kim will come back and help him get off, right? That's the general idea. So, I mean, that was something we did talk about earlier a little bit. Like, if she takes her oath again, could she possibly defend Jimmy? But I don't see this having like any sort of happy ending. And I think him getting away with it would be too much of a happy ending, or maybe happy isn't the correct word to use here, but there needs to be consequences for what he has done. I think.
Yeah, it kind of undercuts the whole idea of reckoning, right?
Yeah.
But, like there are 4 episodes and things could change,
Sure.
There could be reasons, but yeah, right now, like that's where I would go with that. I would say that I don't anticipate it, but things could change. Andrew, thanks for 750 ISK. It's very exotic looking. I don't know what it is, but it's very nice of you either way. My favorite moment was when Cliff Main aided Kim in her lie by refusing to comment. Great writing, great setup. Yeah, that's something I mentioned in my video, is that, poor Cliff, he's like, I've seen too much, and all of it was completely set up by Kim and Jimmy,
Well, that's the thing too. It sucks so much how Kim pretty much destroyed the 2 people that were still defending the fact that Howard is innocent and that he wasn't a drug addict, and she essentially gaslit them into believing the lie, like the 2 final people that were willing to defend that he wasn't an addict. And like she brings up saying how she didn't say anything and she wished she did, and then Cheryl kind of looks over to Cliff and says, well, did you know anything about this? Did you see any examples? And he kind of says like, oh, this isn't the time or place.
It's not the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But that probably made him feel really guilty, like, oh crap, maybe I should have said something too. What the heck? So
exactly. Really I was gonna say the same thing, Chase. So yeah, that was kind of a dig at Cliff, definitely. So I wish I'd said something, and he's sitting there thinking like, well, I've had all this evidence shown to me and I didn't say anything. So I think that's certainly something he could wrestle with. And it reminds me a little bit of the moment when Howard is in the apartment following Chuck's death, and he's confessing that he thinks that he may have contributed to what Chuck did because he asked him to resign. And very callously, Jimmy's like, well, that's your cross to bear. So it very much reminded me of that moment. And also just linguistically, I wish I'd said something also reminds me a little bit of a line from her mother where she says she's going to wish we'd call it the police. So again, as part of the fiction of like, showing how she's not moralistic in this moment, but like, she's regretting her own decisions and projecting that onto them.
It's just crazy how Kim pushes the guilt onto Cliff and Cheryl in kind of a similar way that Jimmy pushed the guilt onto Howard. Those are just moments that just like, I look at that season 4 episode and I still just like, my heart sinks. Like I'm doing it for my tier list. I did a video on all the reasons why Jimmy and Kim hate Howard, and I was I've looked over that scene quite a few times recently, and it just gets me every time. And I feel like this is another one of those scenes that is just going to get me every single time, with how they just gaslit the final two people that believed in Howard, and they completely ruined that for them.
Yeah. True Shoes, thank you for the $5 Canadian. I think Gene will return to Albuquerque to tie up loose ends like Walt. One example I'm thinking of is him telling Cheryl the truth so she gets closure. I don't know. Cheryl.
It'd be too little too late, but I'd like it. Be too little too late, though. Especially after all those years.
And I feel like that would be him, like, it would sort of be like that thing where you unburden yourself and you think you're helping the other person, but you're not really. You're bringing up old wounds that can't really be resolved. Like, I don't know. I think that he could tie up some loose ends, but I'm not sure that that's one of the ones that would really be all that noble.
That definitely would be trying to unburden yourself, the same way that Mike tried talking to Nacho's dad, but Nacho's dad just didn't give him any sort of satisfaction in doing so. Sorry to cut you off, Courtney.
Oh, no. I was just thinking, so like in Breaking Bad, after Walt and Jesse burned down the lab, right? I was thinking if like further down in the future, if they decide some company corporation decides to build something else on the lot there, if it's possible that they might recover the bodies under the lab. And I don't know if that's something that they would bother doing, but I was just thinking of how that would be proof then for Cheryl, for Cliff, that, you know, I think there's opportunity for that story to come out. And I really think that line that they threw in there with Mike and Gus, that the file can't be closed until, you know, as long as there's no body, I think is something to bear in mind. Whether the writers follow that through and pick up on that line is a question that I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if they answer that. But I do think it's an interesting question that perhaps will be addressed. Will the body be recovered?
Yeah, I had a ton of people saying, "Oh, Gus is definitely going to hunt her down now," and I don't think that's necessarily the case. But I do think what you're saying is true. They definitely gave themselves that out in the storytelling. You know what I mean? That's a thread they could pull on. I'm not sure if they will, but yeah, I had a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, Gus is surely going to hunt her down now." The one thing that is kind of interesting, though, is that he did say, you know, Mike told them very specifically, "You're not going to change anything. You're going to do exactly what you do." And then she turned around and she quit the law and left town, like not really following his instructions at all there.
Don't do anything major. Don't draw attention towards yourself. Oh, well, I'm not a lawyer and I'm moving away. Oh, that's not suspicious at all.
Yeah, so I kind of in the same way, I kind of wonder if that's gonna play a part, you know.
They had one normal day and that's it. That's good enough. I convinced Cheryl I'm out. Yeah, I don't know. Like, we thought that, or at least I thought, and I know other people were theorizing that after episode 608, that maybe Gus could go after Kim because he knows where he lives. He kind of knows what he looks like. He knows that whoever lives at that house is involved with the cartel, and you could easily look up and find out that Gus Fring, the owner of Los Pollos, works there. So yada, yada, yada. Maybe Kim finds out Gus's true business, and maybe he goes after her, but they kind of closed that in 609 with Mike telling Gus that the lawyers did their part and they played it almost too well. So I don't think that Gus is going to go after Kim. And likewise, I don't think that he's going to go after Cheryl or anyone else on the lawyer side of the show. I think that that's over and done with. But I did get a lot of comments that were like, oh, when Hank and Gomi, you know, searched the super lab in Breaking Bad, they found the two bodies, even though those are the two bodies that the guards that Walt killed or whatever. So there is that discrepancy, but, you know, maybe they could do another, or, oh yeah, the new people decided to build there and they found two random burials, or one burial with two bodies.
Ostro 1980, thank you for the 5. This is about the same thing. And when I was reading his, I just thought about the idea that we have moved on from this timeline. So, you know, like it's odd that she did that, but it doesn't seem like there were any immediate reactions from them because I don't know that we're going to go back to the BCS timeline at all.
Yeah, and I don't know that the cops would still be interested in talking to them or following them if they're satisfied with what the story they were told. And she's in pro bono practice, so I mean, certainly other people in the community will notice that she's missing. So it is an interesting question, I think.
Yeah. Devontae Morick, thank you for the 2. Do you guys foresee any more deaths? For me, I think that Gus is going to die. I think that Mike is going to die. I think that Walter White is going to die. What about you guys?
Whoa, don't
guys?
get crazy. Don't get crazy. Oh god, there's some crackpot theories you got there, man. Oh my goodness.
I don't think Jimmy or Kim will die. No, I guess that's what the question is, right? I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. I think that any deaths would happen in the Better Call Saul timeline. I don't think Gene's gonna die. I think Kim got out. Who else survives? I don't think we're gonna see Jesse. I don't think anyone on the lawyer side's gonna die. I think Cliff is fine, Rich is fine, Cheryl's fine, Stacy and Kaylee are fine. Joe, the guy from the junkyard, he's fine. Skinny Pete Badger, they're fine. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I could foresee maybe Gene dying, but like Jimmy. But I don't think so, and I don't think Kim is going to die. So I think it's an interesting question though, because I was thinking of like pairings in this universe, and in every couple someone dies. So Jesse Jane, Jesse Andrea, Walt Schuyler, Hank Marie. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to go that way though.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're right. All right, next one. Thank you for the 5. Andre W. Sarkis, maybe. Eventually, they'd find Lalo and Howard under the lab when they excavate that hole in the ground. Maybe in the Gene timeline. That's something we were just talking about, and I don't have anything else to add on it. Other than I don't think that
report.
Yeah, I don't think it's a given that they would find those bodies. They're buried under thick concrete, and there's. It's a thing that it's a thread they could pull on, but I don't think that I would feel like it was a plot hole or a mistake for them not to ever be found.
I mean, like that basement for the super lab was built in secret, right? Like, is that just part of the real estate now? Like, for all we know, the next people that buy that plot of land, they could just fill up that hole with a bunch of concrete or something, right?
I mean, it was a meth lab, though. I mean, certainly the police and they might be curious about what's underneath there, and it might take a while for them to discover it. So it could come up. I wouldn't be surprised either way if they do or they don't.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a toxic dump site too. Like, there's a lot of things that just sort of I don't really know about how that would go down in real life. So I don't really speculating on it doesn't really make sense from my point of view because I just don't know enough. Like you said, did they just destroy the whole thing after that? You know what I mean? Like, that seems like what they would do in real life. But does that mean if they did that, would they find something that was buried under all that concrete? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel like they'd be more likely to fill it up than dig more out.
Yeah. I'm scrolling through this because this comment here is in relation to that theory we talked about a second ago. And I'm scrolling through the chat. As a parent, that people don't really realize how many how chat scrolls by in here and how I can't really keep up with everything because this thing is going on for like minutes here where they're talking about that same theory. And support it. I don't know what the point of this is in the context that Walt and Jesse kidnapped. They do kidnap Saul in episode 8 of season 2 of Breaking Bad, and he could use that as a as part of his explanation for why he did what he did, but you don't get out of crimes just because someone forced you to do them. You're still actually guilty of them.
Yeah.
So and we got some spam in there too. Sorry about that. Dual Dyer, thank you for the 5. Do you guys think Kim is still alive by the end of the Gene timeline, and will he reunite with Jimmy? Well, we just all three said that we thought that she would probably survive. And I mean, the thing with reuniting is it's just such a big thing. How could they not do it in a way? But I don't know. Anything else to add on that?
Yeah, I really like the final scene with Kim in 609, but I do think it's a bit too short and sudden for it to be the last time we ever see her. Definitely think we're going to see her again. And Pete, I think we might have talked about this, but just as far as all the main characters having sort of a different ending, right? Like Jesse or Walt dies, Jesse lives but goes into hiding. Maybe Gene goes into hiding, but then he goes into jail, and then Kim just gets to live free. So I think it'd be nice for them to have all different outcomes from this criminal life.
Yeah.
That's just the way I see it. I don't know. I like how Walt dies, Jesse lives a new life, Gene goes to jail. Be nice. Doesn't repeat the same ending.
I don't remember if it was Vince or Peter. One of them said, though, that we've never seen anyone actually go and face like actual real time, like, maybe short stints in jail. So they were at some point, I don't know if this sounds familiar to either of you. I can't remember which one of them said it. But it would be an interesting take if someone actually has to go to prison and serve actual time for what they've done. And as far as whether we'll see Kim again, I tend to think we haven't seen the last of her. I don't know if we're going to see her again with Jimmy. I do think we're going to see a phone call, though, perhaps.
Yeah.
So
I think that is an important part. I've seen a lot of theories this week too about that, about how maybe she'll come back and we'll see how they set those calls up. Like she could appear in the Breaking Bad timeline. I do think that the implication is that she left Albuquerque. There's no reason for her to stay there, especially after she quits the law. So I saw some things that like maybe she's just living there and she's just hanging around, but they don't get together anymore. I think it's more likely if we saw her in the Breaking Bad timeline, it would be that she was passing through, or she reaches out to him and possibly sets up those telephone calls. Because if they're addicts and they think that they're bad for each other, then it's not really great to tempt each other with knowing too much about what's going on in each other's lives, right?
I definitely think that Kim isn't in Albuquerque anymore. Like, she knows too many people from her lawyer career, and I think just like how she doesn't want to be in that apartment anymore because the apartment's tainted, maybe the whole town's tainted for her. So I think that she's definitely in another town. And if we do see Kim in the Breaking Bad or Gene timeline, like post Breaking Bad, I would like to see her reaction to seeing the Heisenberg case on TV, kind of like how we saw within El Camino with Skinny Pete and Badger watching it, and then Jesse hearing about Walt's death on the car radio. So I'd like to see Kim's reaction to the Heisenberg case and maybe implications with Saul, or the fact that Saul's missing or he's wanted or something like that.
yeah, and actually I mentioned earlier that I was maybe like how they were going to do Walt and Jesse. I mentioned like a scenario like potentially like when Jesse's hiding out in the laser tag place. Mike is looking for him. That might be an interesting point to jump into. And something else that I was thinking of is how like that might also relate to Kim, because I'm sure that was probably national news once Gus was killed, right? So like you have like this explosion at a nursing home and it involves big members of the cartel. She certainly knows the Salamanca name. She may not know who Gus is, but she might recognize Boyos Hermanos and stuff like that. So I thought that might be interesting as well. So to see maybe not just at the end with Walt, but at some other point along the storyline chase where she's watching something on the news.
Was it in El Camino as well where Joe, the guy from the junkyard, he sees like a news story of how Jesse's wanted or something like that? So we could see the same thing with Saul as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, that would be nationwide, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like there's a definite possibility that you would see that no matter where you are.
I mean, I looked up the like how much Saul was wanted for in that bounty poster compared to like the top 10 in America, and he'd definitely be like number 3.
Matthew Reeves, thank you for the $2. He says Walt is teaching class and Jesse's in the back. We're kind of past that though in the timeline right now. I'm not sure if we'll go backwards. This one is a little bit confusing to me. I've been looking at it for about 30 seconds, and Walt and Jesse scenes, Walt and Gus, Jesse and Saul, Walt and Jesse with Saul, go Sox.
I think that might be a reference to, I think it was Bryan Cranston. One of them said that there were 3 scenes all together. One was of them together, and then one was of each of them separately. So maybe this is what
Yeah.
he's speculating.
Yeah, there should be 3 scenes all together.
Okay,
one
yeah,
just
because
Walt, one just Jesse. And yeah, one of
now
them
I
together.
see it. Yeah, now I see that there's a colon there. So Walt and Gus, Jesse and Saul, Walt and Jesse and Saul. Yeah, okay. Rory Gogarty, thank you for the €5. Do you think J and K, Jimmy and Kim, could meet again but not reunite? She could be remarried, kids, a new job, or could things turn out tragically for her? Yeah, we talked about this a little bit ago. I hope you heard it. That's what I think, is that there would have to be some kind of shift. I think she's going to a dark place, even though she's making the right decision. Like, I don't think that she's just going to be it's going to be so easy for her to put all this behind her and live a new life. Not right immediately after the events of episode 9. Orga. Something 15. I can't make that out. Kim said the relationship was poison to both of them, but it's actually just for her. Jimmy's even worse alone. Maybe Kim find out she's just the same. Yeah, there's a possibility to that. But I think that the point there is more of it about the fact that, there it's like an addiction. There's progression. They got worse as they went, and there's really no stopping it. It just keeps going when they're together. She's hoping that if they get apart, then they might be okay. Right?
Definitely has to do with the whole wine and roses of it all, right?
I mean, you're saying here that Jimmy's worse alone. I don't know that that's really true. But Jimmy's strategy after she leaves is definitely not, what you would hope he would do. He basically takes all of the Jimmy and humanity out of himself, and he just throws himself into this life wearing this mask. I mean, I think Peter Gould called it, he flattened himself out into being a cartoon character.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think she could anticipate that that's how he would react. I mean, she could, if she went back and really looked at what was going on. But I mean, it just like anything with people, it's there's so many different factors. It's just really complicated. She's thinking of it more than the lines of like they're part of the glue that keeps them together is the scheming, and the scheming will always have negative consequences and stuff that they can't account for.
Well, Jimmy or Kim always had that inside of her because of her past and with her mom, but she was never like that by herself. It's Jimmy's what awoken that with her and made her like that. So maybe she's thinking if she's not with Jimmy anymore, then she can go back to not conning. She can just quit cold turkey, and then Jimmy goes off into becoming Saul. It's kind of just like the wine and roses story, except with a twist at the end, I guess, because instead of, well,
Instead of him leaving,
yeah. I'm just assuming you guys know the wine and roses, but
yeah.
I actually watched it just out of curiosity. Yeah.
I just read the synopsis, to be honest. I just read the summary.
Yeah, so at the end, he ends up leaving her, and well, they both descend into really, really horrible alcoholism, and it's been a while since I've seen it. I think he ends up in a mental asylum, and he gets out, and yeah, and then she decides she goes and stays with her father, and it turns out like they have this little kid, and he's the one that decides to get better. And there's a really sad moment. There's also kind of this like pleading moment where she comes over, and she's so kind of an inverse of what we see with Jimmy and Kim, where he's pleading with her to stay. She's Lee Remy, is that her name? I think the actress's name is pleading with him to stay, and he's like, I can't do this. So yeah, it's an inversion of that story.
Yeah, I think I saw a few clips of it because I remember that final scene of them at the doorway with the kid. But yeah, it's really kind of messed up because he introduced her to alcohol, but then he gets clean and she gets worse and worse. So with Jimmy and Kim, Jimmy introduces Kim to the conning, but if it were to fall like parallel wine and roses, Jimmy would get clean and Kim would get worse and worse. But it's a twist where Kim backs out and then Jimmy gets worse. So I mean, the parallel's still there regardless.
Yeah, Lee Remick, I think that was her name.
Okay.
JoJo's ASMR, thank you for the $5. Even a bigger hint Kettleman's Run Ice Station Zebra is in American Greed. Betsy says we're survivors, implying they were forced by Jimmy to work. Yeah, I'll agree. Almeida's Army, thank you for the £1.79. Will Cheryl and her legal practice come into play? I would say no. What do you guys think?
I would not be surprised if we saw the last of Cheryl in this episode, to be honest. I don't know if we'll see her at all in the Breaking Bad timeline or the Gene timeline at all. I think that 609 put a pretty nice bow on that. Well, a tragic bow, but an bookend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless like they're going to pick up more with the Howard storyline, maybe telling the truth about what really happened that night with Howard. I don't imagine her coming back. So I do think it's possible though that maybe in the final episode or two we do see her again in some capacity, or at least that the story will be told.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm looking through here, and things were getting pretty choppy in the chat for a while. If anybody who's watching is interested in becoming a mod, you can email me on the back end of my channel, and we can talk about that. But I expect people to be, I don't know, adults if they're here, but I guess that you can't really count on it.
If there's any viewers that have talked to me on Twitter before or anything like that, maybe hit me up on Twitter, and if I've talked to you before, I might vouch for you. Just saying.
Yeah, it's it's something I've been thinking about. I just don't know anybody in my personal life or off the top of my head that would be a good fit for it. So if you do, reach out and we can talk about it.
Not Tuco, where you at? Sorry.
Yeah, Ruari Gogarty, thank you for the £5. Chance that the refused scholarship girl could be the one that Francesca calls. Hard to think who it is. Cliff Main, Rich, or Oakley don't seem likely. I've kind of landed on Cliff for who's left, but do you guys have any other thoughts? I mean, I don't. The refused scholarship girl, that would be like a deep cut at this point. I mean, I think that was an interesting part of the story. It was a great scene, Christy Esposito, but they haven't really gone back to it for quite some time. So that would seem kind of out of the blue for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we're going to actually see who Francesca calls. I don't know if that's something they'll bother including. I think the more important thing from that scene is the tease of the phone call that she will be receiving. So I don't know if we'll ever actually know the answer to what lawyer she calls. Maybe.
Yeah, because I I've said this before, but I think when they made that, they didn't know, and they weren't even sure. So us trying to reverse engineer it is not really, maybe prudent.
I'm still vouching that it's still Kim. I mean, we haven't heard anything about Christy Esposito. I think the only time that she ever came up again was when Howard was talking to Jimmy in season 5, trying to first offer him that job, right? So, be kind of an irrelevant thing to pull out of nowhere.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, the call is definitely Kim. That's what you're about to say too, right? Courtney?
So I think the question is because Jimmy says
he gives her the card.
Yeah, he gives her a card and says, "Tell him that Jimmy told you to."
Oh yeah, okay. I was thinking of the birthday call, not the card.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it could be Cliff or Rich, honestly.
Yeah. Daniel Chang, thank you for the NT70. Is BCS season 6 end of BCS universe? I think so. We talked about this earlier. There may be more IP that exists in this world because that's just the way things work. But I think this is I believe Vince and Peter when they say they'd like to try out some different things and they're ready to move on, and I hope they get to do that. Wall of text objection. Thank you for the $10. Opinions about how Jimmy handled Mike's death in Breaking Bad and how that might play in Jimmy's story. Was it a case of Jimmy compartmentalizing again, or is Walt the new Lalo? That's an interesting question. I don't know. Does either of you have a knee-jerk reaction answer to this? I think it could be him compartmentalizing.
I mean, the real answer is that when they did that, they didn't know that Jimmy and Mike would have such a backstory, right? Because Better Call Saul it. But like in universe answer, I'm not too sure. I mean, Jesse was the one that was really pissed off over Mike dying, right? I kind of wish that Saul did show more of being mad. I mean, maybe that's something we could see in one of the Walt and Jesse scenes, like maybe when Saul's in the bunker at Ed's with Walt, he could go off about how he killed Mike or something like that.
I think there's no love lost between the two, and I think we do see throughout Breaking Bad just how, I mean, like the scene where Mike shows up at his office and is going to break his legs, I think there's certainly, to put it, lightly, tension between them. So I think he saw it coming probably. And I guess like, I just see Saul now in the context of what happened most recently, that this is someone that's not like really dealing with feelings at all. Right. So I don't think it's really processing much.
Yeah. I think that's where I'm landing too. The more I think about it.
I mean, he's the guy that's constantly suggesting people take trips to Belize, right? So
yeah.
The Recovery 716. Thank you for the $4.99. I want to watch Better Dial Lyle. How did he become Los Pollos Hermanos material? What I think about Lyle is that he's eventually he's going to learn what his boss did. You know what I mean? I feel kind of bad for him in that whenever he finds out the truth about this guy Gus that he worked with for so long.
Then that scene in season 3 when Hector came to Los Pollos would finally make sense, right? Be like, oh, he duped me with that fake story.
Well, they did say Gordon Smith did say that they have a fake musical that they talk about in the writers' room about Lyle. I mentioned this on the last stream. I think it was 1 or 2 Insider podcasts ago. They mentioned that. ADHD Whiskey, thank you for the 5. Anyone notice Mike watching Isotope's game in Breaking Bad season 4, episode 1? Then a very similar shot of him watching an Isotope's game again in BCS season 6, episode 7 or 8. I saw a comment about this, and you brought this up, the scene where he's having a beer watching TV. And I think one of the things that shows is like that would be his life if he didn't work. You know, if he didn't get mixed up with the cartel, that's exactly what he'd be doing. He'd be working at the parking garage and he'd be, you know, watching those baseball games.
I think it was also sort of visual pun on the fun and games, right? So you have the fun of the marble track, and then the game is the actual baseball game playing.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good one. Disraeli Davis, thank you for the 5. Thomas S said this flash forward is around 2007. He said the props don't matter. I'm not sure if he said the props don't matter, but he did say that. I brought this up in my last video, my preview video. And I think the biggest thing altogether is that whatever, it doesn't really matter, but what matters is that we see how we see a flash forward to how he is after Kim leaves, and it's before he meets Walt. That's the important part. The time frame isn't all that important.
Yeah, I'm gonna just sit that one out.
I think they made a mistake with the 05, but we'll see. Sean Luby, thank you for the 10. Great channel. Hi, Courtney, he says.
Hi, Sean.
And you said you're going to get ready to go. Is that right, Courtney? I wanted to give you a chance if you need it, because there's still more questions I got to answer. So
yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll bow out here. Thank you so much again for having me on. Great chat. Nice chatting with you too, Chase.
Yeah, it was a great time.
All right, have a good one.
Have a good one.
So
see ya.
Check out her channel. The link is in the description. Well, it was nice having you. We'll definitely talk more, and we'll have you back before in one of these. Like I said, I'll be thinking about same thing I told Eric. I'll be thinking about whether we're going to do 2 or how that works. It sounds like you're pretty busy on Tuesdays with your regular schedule. So
yeah, well, after this week, I'll have a little bit more flexibility, right? So just this last week, and then I'll have a little bit more freedom. So yeah, we'll chat for sure.
All right. Well, have a good one, and thanks again, and we'll talk soon. All right. Now I'm scrolling through the ongoing debate about this theory in the side chat. Rory Gogarty, thank you for the £5. Could Jimmy see Kim again? Not a reunion. Oh, we already read this one, didn't we?
Yeah. I think
it's a different version of the same one. It's a different version of the same one, though. Her life turned out tragically. Addiction, health issues, etc. I don't like the literal addiction. I think that's a little bit over the top, but I do think that she's going to be in a bad spot. That's where I keep going back to that. This is not going to be something that that she's gonna walk away from easily.
I will just add that I don't think that Kim's remarried or has kids or anything like that. I think she's still living the single life, trying to do her best to help people.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe she could be back at her hometown working at the Hinky Dinky. Who knows? The Hinky what?
That is interesting. What she said there, she's being purposely vague, but you wonder how much truth is actually in the lie. You know what I mean?
I need to look up Hinky Dinky Red Cloud now and see if that's real.
I think that's in the middle of the country. That's a grocery store chain, isn't it? It's not one that I've ever seen where I lived anywhere.
I've honestly never looked it up. I mean, I've looked up Red Cloud. I haven't looked up the Hinky Dinky. I like saying that name though. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's a catchy title. As they say.
I can see why they use it.
The game 9205. Thank you for the $4.99. Off topic, but will you be doing any Westworld season 4 videos? I probably won't. I'm pretty busy. I am watching it. I like the first 3 episodes in particular. The last one I watched, I didn't like as much, but there's a lot of people that cover it. It's a show that takes a lot of time because it's at least like the last couple of seasons been nearly incoherent. And there's a lot I like about it, but I just don't think it makes sense for me right now. If something really cool comes up, then I might do it. But I've kind of moved past of like I want to sit around and just obsess over Westworld theories because the payoff hasn't been that great in seasons 2 and season 3. BRXH 499. Thank you. If Jimmy wants to be Saul 24/7 post Kim, why does he tell Walter that his real name is McGill when he meets him?
Well, he's trying to level with him, right? Like, there's been a few times in Breaking Bad that Saul actually acts like Jimmy. He has a few moments of humanity, like when he tells Saul maybe he should leave the game, or maybe he should turn himself in, and stuff like that. Like, he does have a few moments. They're rare, but here and there where he tries leveling with people like a human being.
Yeah, and I just don't think there's any reason that he needs to conceal it from him. It's not that he wants to be Saul 24/7. It's his way of coping with the situation. He's wearing a mask. What could actually how could that come back on him in any negative way for him to say what his real name is? Everyone knows that's a fake name. Like, nobody's born Saul Goodman. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, even Hank instantly called him out.
Yeah, but he's clearly, to me it seems like it's definitely something that he made up himself. Jacques Doucet, thank you for the 10. Huge twist ahead. Sammy Hagar shows up with Jeb, the cab driver. Yeah, I can't wait till we actually get to Gene. That's what I was thinking the last couple of days. Like, we've been waiting so long. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just wild. Just still predicting off of the same season 5 stuff from like 2 years ago.
Yeah, like literally 2 years, in the real world.
Yeah, like I got a video about a Gene and Kim reunion from like a year and a half, 2 years ago on it, like,
Mm-hmm. Oh, Lalo Salamanca's here. Thank you for the $2. Gene and Marco wear a suit in the end. Foreshadow. Gene and Marco. Oh, Marco, he's wearing a suit whenever he plays dead or plays like he's passed out in the alley. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I assume so. Marco never met Gene. So
yeah, I mean he does that because that's how they make the Rolex look legit instead of being fake, right? If a guy who's wearing a suit has it on, he wouldn't be wearing a fake. I'm not sure if it's foreshadowing. Some guy, thank you for the 5. What are y'all's thoughts on that supposed other description of 610 on that Spanish streaming service?
I'm not sure if what I'm thinking about is what they're talking about, but I heard a supposed description for the next episode. I'm not sure if it's true or not. I don't know if I should put it in the...
I haven't heard it.
I just say it? I don't know if it's like a spoiler or not, or... Fair enough. If
it's out there in the world, it's not a spoiler.
I heard that, and I don't know if this is true or not. It could just be someone, Josh and me, but I heard that Carol Burnett plays a neighbor, and Gene gets close to her in order to get close to her son, in order to pull off a con with her son. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I heard that through the grapevine, either on Twitter or in a YouTube comment, and honestly forgot about it until like halfway through the stream here. Didn't really have any time to just randomly throw it in. I think it was a description of an episode, but I'm not sure.
Well, that's my favorite theory on Carol Burnett, is that she's in the Gene timeline, and she's a snag in whatever he tries to do against Jeff, I haven't seen that. I didn't see the Spanish streaming service description in question. I don't know if it's exactly the same one, even, because I don't know. I'm guessing there's a post on Reddit or somewhere that I haven't seen yet, but I'm going to look for it. Thanks for the heads up. And yeah, just like what I said, I like the idea that she could be related to Jeff. That's been one of my favorite ideas about her.
That'd be interesting.
Well, I mean, the other one was Ed's wife, but that sort of seems like it's negated now. You know what I mean? There's no real need to have Ed again.
Or Judge Pompadomian, or whatever that name is.
Yeah, but that seems also like, you know, what would we really, what kind of major court engagement would there be now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah, I got no
Lalo,
clue.
Lalo again. Marco wore a suit. He's going to, and yeah, this is what we were saying. Marco wore a suit in his last scam and died. Do you think a similar fate for Gene? Also, season 1 final called Marco. Will this be final be called Polo? That would be kind of cool. I don't think so, but I guess we kind of put together what you were saying in your last chat, and I don't think that's a 1-to-1 foreshadowing, but it could look like that if Gene does end up dying, which I also don't think is going to happen.
I'm still very confused as to why they changed up the title shtick that they were doing with the blank and blank, and why they went with Nippy. And if the next episode is the one that Walt and Jesse are in, why didn't they name it Breaking Bad? Like, come on. I don't know. I always like the idea of Saul's first episode in Breaking Bad is called Better Call Saul. Walt and Jesse's first episode in Better Call Saul should be called Breaking Bad. I like it. Maybe it's a bit too obvious, but they already practically confirmed that they're in the next episode anyways. So if they were going to confirm it ahead of time, they could have just called it Breaking Bad.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to use a fake name just to hide the fact that they were going to call it Breaking Bad. So it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I don't think that would be terrible. I do like the idea of, you know, them being a team or a couple in a relationship. So all the titles that when they're in it together, they're ands, and whenever they're split up, it's a one word. It's a solo. But that's not even confirmed to be what their thinking was. That's just the logic of it. Insomniac 117, thank you for the $10. I think the way we will see Walt and Jesse is through hidden recording of Walt and Jesse. Remember when Saul had Mike bug his place? Maybe he would use this to get a lighter sentence.
What do you think he's gonna rat out Walt and Jesse somehow? I don't know if he's gonna do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible that it could be a hidden recording, like where, you know, Saul's listening to them or something like that. But I don't know. I don't think it's about evidence. Like I said, I don't really care to see him go through a court case if that's his decision.
Yeah, agreed.
Here we go. Tricycle Jesus, thank you for the ZAR 35. Why did Mike, etc., care to clean up the Howard mess? How would it have traced back to them if they didn't? I mean, I think that because Jimmy and Kim know them, it could implicate them if they didn't help them out, right?
Yeah, I think it was either they help Jimmy and Kim out with the Howard mess and get them to keep quiet, or they'd have to kill Jimmy and Kim as well.
Yeah, if that's the choice, it's easier to just help them get rid of Howard.
And I mean, if they kill Jimmy and Kim, they'd have to get rid of all the bodies anyways. So why not just get rid of one?
I'm saying you have two bodies. You have two bodies and two stories to come up with, and that.
Yeah, why make it four?
So I'm saying it's just more efficient to just get rid of one, right?
Yeah.
Thomas Bark, thank you for the SEK20. Anyone know episode when Bob had heart attack? It was in 608. It was in between scenes, and if you go listen to the Insider podcast, they talk about they shot all the footage of Jim and Kimmy, or Kim and Jimmy, in the scene where, you know, they're talking to Lalo, and they were on break, and they were waiting to set up to shoot from the other side, to set up all the cameras to shoot Lalo's stuff. and that's when it happened. So they had to come back in like months later to like that scene was shot over, there was a 2-month break in the middle of it.
Yeah, so they did all the Jimmy and Kim scenes first, then they had to wait 6 weeks, and then Tony Dalton came back and did all of his side of all the scenes. But the thing that confused me is that in between 608 and 609, Bob Odenkirk apparently did an article interview where he said that he had the heart attack in 609, but he might have, I don't know if he means that it was that when they did some scenes, around him, because they had to shoot out of order, because I know that they did scenes that didn't involve Bob or Jimmy while he was resting and recovering, and then he came back and they did it. But yeah, I'm fairly certain that it was in 608, so I don't really know what that article interview was about Bob saying it was in 609, but we heard the whole story in great detail during the 608 podcast with them, reviving Bob Odenkirk right on set with the defibrillators. So that was like a whole thing.
Yeah, it definitely, it definitely happened in 608. It didn't happen while he was actually acting, and it's pretty wild to think about. They shot that scene on two different, so far apart. Okay, another one from Lalo Salamanca himself, $2. Thank you. The writer said they're going real dark with Mike. Yeah, I saw a post about this earlier. That there was a question of like, Peter Gould said Gus would find love. They finally showed that in the last episode. And then Mike going real dark. Has Mike gone real dark already, or you think there's something more coming there?
I mean, there could be something more coming in the Breaking Bad timeline. He's definitely a dark person in Breaking Bad.
But I mean, do you think that we haven't seen him go dark yet? I mean, that's the question,
Well, to be honest, we haven't really seen Mike. Have we seen Mike even kill anyone in season 6?
Well, I mean, he's talking. He has this code of like, I'm not going to, people are in the game. I'm not in. I'm not, he knows after talking to Manuel that like, yeah, it's just like Kim and Jimmy. Like he can have his code all he wants, but people are still going to get hurt and die that don't deserve it, and he's a part of that. And he makes a choice. So that's how we see him different through Breaking Bad now. Is like, we know that he understands that his code's all really just kind of bullshit, but he does it anyways because that's what he's decided to do, right?
Yeah, I guess the whole Better Call Saul timeline has kind of just crushed his spirits in that regard. It's corrupted him enough that he's probably just going to throw that, that code to the sideline, and that's when he becomes a full hitman for Gus.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, was like he actually has gone really dark at this point compared to who he was when we first met him, and in season 1.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true.
Mark Barkas, thank you for the $2. The diamonds come up several times. Any thoughts? It seems like something they threw in there that they could use later. It seems like it could be a way for him to bug out, with some cash that's that's small or whatever. But lately, the only thing that came up was that other teaser where he says, it sounds like he made a payoff. It could be part of the payoff. Earlier, Chase brought up the idea that he might give that to someone.
Try to give it to Kim, but she might not accept it.
So yeah, I don't think there's anything. I mean, it's something that they put into the story they could come back to, but they haven't really made it clear how they're going to come back to it.
I think it could totally just be a machine gun in the trunk type of situation,
Yeah.
And I think if he does try to bribe Jeff, it could be like a piñata situation where he bribes him, but then Jeff does come back and he's like, "Oh, you really shouldn't have come back, or you should have just taken the first deal," and then he does something bad to him.
Yeah. Another Mark Barris, $2. Thank you. Any thoughts on a Gus spinoff, The Waiter? Well, I think that the point of the scene in in the last episode was that the waiter is something that he allows himself to have that fantasy, but he'll never follow through on. So I don't think we'd see him come back. And I don't think that they were already intimate. I think they were just into each other, and it was just, just to show us a different side of Gus that they kept hidden so far. I said that in the last stream we talked about a Gus spinoff. It would be fine. I mean, it would be okay. I'm not dying to see it, but I'm sure it would be pretty compelling.
I mean, I'd love to see it. They might have to do some serious de-aging or just use a different actor.
They'd have to get a completely different actor at this point if they were gonna.
Yeah.
It's like you couldn't make a young Mike series and
as a cop or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Chuck in college and have Michael McKean back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I would watch it if they did it because it would be surreal, but I don't think you would go into a series with that as your plan.
Yeah, agreed.
Ariozone, thank you for the $4.99. Thoughts on whether Kim might head north, given Ice Station Zebra's meaning for her? Plus, Jesse's there. No, I never really thought that. That seems a little contrived to me for her to go to Alaska. What do you think, Chase?
Kim has absolutely no idea who Jesse is, right? Unless she saw him on the news, but even so, she'd have no idea that he's there, and it'd be a hell of a coincidence for them to meet up.
Yeah, I would agree.
And even if they did, they'd just be passers-by, right? It's not like they'd suddenly
they have no connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lalo Salamanca again. Thank you for 5. Again, if they did the and title still, then final episode theory name Wolves and Sheep. Well, they could go back to the and titles if they got back together. I always liked the Wolves and Sheep. Truth and Consequences. I don't know. What were some of your favorite and titles that they never got around to?
I've just been wanting a Wolves and Sheep ever since 602. I thought that was for sure going to be a thing, but I totally forgot about it until now. I'm just going to go with Wolves and Sheep.
Yeah, and
Alpha and Omega. I don't know.
Yeah, the fake fan one that was out there about the elements. What is it?
Something in beryllium.
Barium and
beryllium.
Whatever
something.
It is. Yeah, the
BA
and PR.
I'll have to reference the Gale song. Yeah, my brain's starting to turn to mush here.
Yeah, and that happens to coincide with this was the last one, so we caught up to the end.
Holy.
3 hours 17 minutes is long enough for me. I would like to thank everyone who came out and asked questions. I'll throw that idea out there again. If you want to get involved and you maybe want to do some moderating, give me an email at the email you'll find on the back end of my channel. Chase, do you want to plug anything before we go?
I'd just like to say maybe if we did get a Kim episode, it would be called Hanky and Dinky.
That would be good.
For real though, I just did a Gus versus the Cartel video up on my channel where I talk about how they concluded the Better Call Saul Cartel storyline, along with setting up the Breaking Bad storyline. Check that out. Tomorrow I'll have my 609 review up, and I think on Monday I'm planning on trying to do a Kim's Ultimate Decision, talking about her breakup with Jimmy before the new 610 episode comes out that night. So check that out. I'll be covering the next episode, of course. Look out for my season 4 tier list out soon. No particular date, but it's coming along. So look forward to that. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on the stream, Pete. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun talking to Eric and Courtney as well. They're great. And yeah, until next time, right?
Yeah, and you can find the links to his channel in the description if you're not familiar. And we're gonna end it there. Maybe we'll be doing this again. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more Saturday night, or if you think that's too much. And we'll be talking to you soon.